Good evening.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, good evening. To the select board agenda, we'll actually call the NRTA advisory board meeting to order. I don't believe that there are any changes to this agenda. And we're starting with minutes from February 18th.
Move approval.
All those in favor will actually be by roll call. Tom Dixon is remote this evening. All those in favor, Matt Fee.
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb.
Aye.
Brooke Moore.
Aye.
Tom Dixon.
Aye.
Aye, that carries unanimously 5-0. Is there any public comment related to NRTA issues? Seeing none, we have the administrator's report. Gary Roberts.
Hi, Gary Roberts, Administrator, NRTA. On the administrator report, I wanted to give an overview of the transition to the new operating company, Keolis North America. Keolis staff came to the island on February 10th to start the transition process and had up to 5 people here on site as the transition began. The new general manager, Lisa Hoos, arrived shortly thereafter and worked with the Keolis staff on the process. I want to be clear that every single employee of VTS of Mass, the previous operator, was offered employment, including the general manager with Keolis. Every single employee of VTS of Mass took the job except for some supervisory staff and some office staff. During this time, during the transition, the new employee files were started. Drug testing had to be done over for all the employees. Background checks had to be completed. All employees were required to attend training sessions, employee orientation. Meetings were conducted prior to startup on March 1st. Several new programs were put into place, such as scheduling, dispatch software, clock in, clock out procedures, and safety initiatives. Training for supervisory staff is now in place and is actually being conducted as we speak. I have been pleased with the progress, but we still have a few things to work out with Keolis as we work through the transition process. Service began with Keolis as the operator on March 1st, and I believe that there was no disruption that the riders saw. They wouldn't have known that there was any difference on day one. There have been no missed trips and no complaints received from NRTA regarding the bus service. Overall, I find the communication to be much improved with the new operating company. It's just a quick phone call to their upper management, and I get an immediate response and things are addressed right away. Keolis is preparing for their first season on the island, which can be a daunting task, walking in here to understand how the island changes this much. They did have a great test with Daffodil. NRTA buses carried over 1,500 passengers to Sconset and back after the parade. And I will continue to update you guys on the progress as things keep moving forward. And I don't know if you have any questions about anything with the new operator. Nothing. Okay, so we'll move on to the fleet status. We continue to upgrade the fleet, and we now operate 13 battery electric vehicles in revenue service with another 3 vehicles that are being delivered this weekend. These 3 smaller vehicles are gas powered, and they were purchased through a grant at a cost of $650,000. Another new van for Island Ride for the paratransit services will be delivered in July, and that was purchased through a community transit grant. This year, we've decided we've kept the rental vehicles that we did run last season as our fleet transition continues. So we'll be running those 5 vehicles again. We did order 6 new battery electric buses that through delays from the state for approval that they're not going to arrive until September. They were purchased through another grant at a cost of 2.5 million for the 6 vehicles. I'm currently in the process now of the next bus order with no grant funding. These are low emission vehicles, not no emission. So they're diesel electric hybrid buses. These are larger, heavy duty vehicles. Um, as I stated, they were purchased through a grant. The total cost for the vehicles will be approximately 4.5 million, and we should see them in September. They're scheduled for the start production, and we should see them shortly. Um, It'll take 12 months to get them. And, by next season, when we start next season, the majority of the old diesel fleet that was here, the old rattly buses that have been traversing this island for too many years will be gone. And the fleet will finally be updated to today's standards. They'll either be low emission or no emission vehicles on the island. I don't know if you have any questions about the fleet or anything that we're doing with that. Nothing?
I've got one question. How did you, this might be another time, what did you learn running microtransit, on demand for the winter compared to fixed routes? Was
The
there anything?
microtransit worked out well. We're sorry to see that we ended on May 10th. Our ridership was picking up the most in the last few weeks as people arrived, but we started May 11th. The Nantucket route has started. The routes are starting to open up. I think the learning curve that we have when we continue this next fall is we have to promote it more. We do have a grant to help with a mobility manager to help the process a little bit to let people understand that it's not age restricted or it's just zone based. They were electric powered vehicles. They did good. They had downtime that sat between pickups, but we noticed in the last month that it was over 900 trips towards the end of the month. So it did start to catch on. And I think after any pilot is to learn what things you can do differently. And I expect next year to have more success than what we saw with the first year of it. But it did work well. I mean, we had regular riders that were way out in Nantucket that had no other way of getting in that rode the vehicle every single day. So it worked. We didn't have any problems with the software. We could track the vehicles wherever they were at. People could book, and within 2 minutes, the vehicles received the information where to go pick the people up and where to drop them off. There was a lot of questions about whether it was a taxi service that you could wave it down and just stop it, but it had to be dispatched. Our dispatching software worked well. There were some issues with the billing on our reporting side of it. Everyone was billed and paid. We found that 90% of the people paid cash on board and didn't use the phone app to do it. But as it progressed, we saw more use of that. And I think next year we're going to see, a lot better results after people learned how it worked and they get used to it. So I think it was a success.
Will it impact how many winter fixed routes you think you'll have to run?
No, I don't think that our ridership was still up. We didn't see any drop in any ridership. We're still seeing an increase on all the routes across the board. So we would never be able to supplement the amount of rides that we do with the on-demand service, but it does provide service to people that no longer had service. So it was a benefit to everyone on the island.
I have one hand up online. Maxwell Cotton.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Gary, just have a few questions about the fleet.
Go ahead.
So are the 3 buses for the 650 plus the 6 in the fall, are those from the same vendor?
No, they were put out through bids. They're different vendors.
Okay, because I was thinking there's one manufacturer that makes the gas ones and they also make electric.
No, there are several manufacturers, and they have to be on the state contract to sell vehicles. or we join on to another contract to purchase off of their contracts through there's probably over 20 different vendors for vehicles that are out there.
And for the hybrids, are they 30 or 35?
They will be 32 foot.
Oh, nice. And those would do only like Old South Milestone in the airport, nothing else.
Correct.
Makes sense.
Any other questions? Thank you. Go
Okay,
ahead,
we'll
Gary.
move on for the FY27 budget. Tonight, I present to you the FY27 budget, which was in your packet. As in the past, the state has not approved their budget. So I based our budget on level funding for state contract assistance, along with our local assessment with the annual 2.5% increase. State contract numbers will probably see an increase. There's 3 different versions of the budget. There's the governor's budget, there's the House budget, and the Senate budget. Each has some differing amounts in the budget. There's supplemental funding, and some fund more towards fare free, some more towards microtransit. So it's when we find out how the line items are allotted, it'll determine how we can spend our portion that we receive. If the money came in as just operating assistance, then we determine where it goes. If it's determined that statewide there's $15 million for microtransit, your allotment has to be spent in that fashion. So as it works out, it's in conference committee now. It's sitting at $217,500,000 statewide for the RTAs. We get a portion of it. It'll determine our final amount. It is in the law is written that we have to receive what we received last year as a minimum. It's just the supplemental amount, supplemental capital, those items may change. Looking at our FY27 budget, you'll see it's basically a 6% increase over last year. While the expense is up, I did offset the expense with grants that I applied for and that we received. In FY27, we will receive $1,489,000 in grants. These grants are a fare-free grant to continue another year. Currently, we're funded through December 31st of 26. With this next budget, we'll be funded through another year before we have to worry about fare free. We have a community transit mobility grant for staffing and a connectivity grant for routes. So by applying for these grants, it takes the burden off of our operating budget by using this grant funding to cover the cost. You're going to notice the biggest thing, I did include 26 and 27 in your package so you can just compare the cost. I just wanted to be clear on the purchase transportation cost. That's what we pay to our operator to run the buses. It's about a $375,000 increase over last year. It's not due to the new operator. The new operating contract is actually, the management fee is less than it was in previous years. The previous contractor had never offered health benefits to any of its drivers or staff. When I made the decision to put this out to bid for a new operator, that it was mandated that health insurance and benefits is required for the employees. So we know that we're going to be looking at least $300,000 and could come to $400,000 in an increased expense on purchase transportation just for benefits alone. I was adamant when the process started that I wanted benefits for the employees. And this is something that's new.
So I was going to ask about the OPEB contribution, and that must be related, right? Because,
The OPEB contribution actually is through my staff.
okay,
Because of the increased staffing, if you go back to 22, 23, there's been quite an increase. I mean, we've gone up from, I think our OPEB expense was it came in around 80 something thousand, 88,900 last year. We received our assessment from Barnstable County, and we're looking at around 160,000. And it's just due to increased staff for an NRTA. So the operating company is not covered under the Barnstable County. That is just for NRTA staff. Other than that, I mean, we stay pretty close with all our costs. Our federal drawdown funds, the 5311, we've lowered that down to 618,000 from 1.2 million the previous year. Again, the contracted revenue that we're receiving helps offset those costs. So 6% increase for now. We're going to see where the money comes in. Fuel costs are through the roof. Whether or not we're running electrical and non-electric costs are up as well. So those expenses may increase. Vehicle insurance has gone up because of the cost of new vehicles. It costs more to insure them. Parts costs are down because we have more new vehicles. So everything is offsetting itself. 6%. We come in at a total expense of $6,290,000. Along with this, we have our capital funding. That's not part of this. It's separate funding that we receive. That in 27 we're slated at somewhere around $6 million in capital cost. So if I would ask for the board to approve the budget as presented tonight, and I'm open for any questions that you have regarding the budget.
Burton Balkind has his hand up. Burton, did you have a question on the budget? We're having a little bit of video issue. Can you hear me?
He's not going to be able to answer until I let him in.
Okay.
Just so everybody knows, we've lost our YouTube and Zoom feed, so NCTV is working on that, and hopefully we'll be back online. Spruce, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I just was going to let you know we lost the feed. That's all.
Oh, thank you.
I was just told that we're back online. Just so everybody knows, we've lost our.
Now there's a delay.
Okay.
Oh, got it.
Just
Okay.
one other question.
Yes.
You have 300,000 for leases, and then you said the capital is in a separate budget in a separate.
Yeah. So what we do to offset 300,000 of the leases will be paid out through our operating funds. We received this year, we've moved some money around, and we're at like 413,000 in capital funds from the state that help offset our lease costs. We're currently leasing, we own 3, and we lease another 5 properties for workforce housing. So what I do is try to get the state to pay through the capital so it does not affect as much of our operating costs for our leases of the properties.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, could I have a motion? Is
Yeah, move approval of the 27 NRTA budget.
there a second? Okay, made by Brooke, seconded by Matt. All those in favor by roll call. Matt Fee, Malcolm McNabb,
Aye.
Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Tom Dixon online,
Aye.
Don Hill, aye. That carries unanimously 5-0.
All right. And the final item on the administrator report is the revenue anticipation note. Every year, NRTA must apply for a revenue anticipation note. A RAN is issued to bridge temporary cash flows for operating expenses until our state contract assistance is received. So even if the budget is approved July 1, we don't receive our funds from the state until September, sometimes October. It depends on how long the process drags on. So the RAN is actually a complex calculation that you have to do. We have to submit our actual cash flows and receivables from the previous fiscal year. And then we have to project out our expenses for the upcoming fiscal year, which is not the easiest thing to do, to say by month how much money you're going to spend. So based on a 6-month formula, your highest amount of deficit that you show before your funding is received is what you are eligible to receive to apply for a revenue note. We've worked very hard over the past 2 years to lower down our borrowing. We were at 2.2 million. We dropped it down to 1.395 this past year, and this year we are eligible and have applied for 1.3 million. The way it works is you use bond counsel to issue the note, and then you receive competitive bids from banks. I've given you a copy of the three amounts, the bids. You have a coupon rate, and then you have your net interest cost. Your net interest cost is actually what your interest rate is that you're going to pay. So Piper Sandler and Company came in at the lowest net interest at 3.23%. Our interest that we're going to have to pay on the 1.3 million is 46,000, down from 60,000 from last year. The goal of lowering down your RAN amount is because you're paying out an interest cost that you really don't need to do unless you have to get this money. So we've whittled things down and worked through our budget over the last 2 to 3 years to lower the amount that we can get it down to, that we can survive until the funding comes in. So I'm happy with that. The interest rates have been on a steady increase. My first year here, the net interest was somewhere like 0.2%. Last year was over 4%. This year we've gotten it down to 3.2. So by lowering our borrowing amount, it offsets as much as we can, so we're not just paying money out in interest. So I would ask the board to approve the FY27 RAN at 1.3 million.
Any questions?
Just so the premium is on top of the interest. So you're running about like four. If you're at 3.5, you're at about 4.5. Is that?
Honestly, Matt, the premium is very hard to explain. So, if you look at the Cape Cod, their bid, there was no premium on it. So on a 1.3, the pro rata premium we're receiving that funding, it's how they do it. They bid it differently through each one. So by receiving the 6,700 in premium costs, it lowers our net interest. It took me many times to understand what the premium actually meant and how that determines, because why would one have a premium of 6, one have a premium of 9, and one have no premium? Technically, we received the premium amount in our loan amount, but it lowers our net interest cost. It's how it plays out in the easiest way to explain it to you. It's a very complex formula that they do for that.
But you look at the total with
You look at the bid is based on the lowest net interest cost.
Yeah.
And with the premium that Piper and Sandler came in, that ends up being the lowest net interest, even though Cape Cod had a lower coupon rate, because the premium's not there, the net interest cost is elevated.
It's an odd use of a word because premium implies more when it's really means
It's
less.
dropping it down.
Yeah.
So if they don't offer a premium, it keeps their rate where it is. By offering a premium, it lowers down your rate.
I'm fine.
Do you want to make a motion?
I'll move approval.
And I'll second it.
Okay, made by Matt, seconded by Brooke. All those in favor by roll call: Matt Fee,
Aye.
Malcolm McDowell,
Aye.
Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Don Hill, aye. That carries unanimously 5-0. And then I guess we can take a motion to adjourn that.
That's the
and
only
our-
thing else I wanted to. This is probably the last meeting with Malcolm and Tom,
Yes.
and I just wanted to thank you for the years that we've worked together, and I wish you well, and just wanted to say thank you.
Well,
Thank
I
you,
was
guys.
actually going to say that during select board comments. So we honored Tom at our last meeting before town meeting. And this is Malcolm's last in-person meeting with us. And I would say it's been a pleasure serving with you. I think this board's worked incredibly well together, and your expertise has brought a lot to us, and we'll miss you, but we hope we'll volunteer for something else.
Oh, I'll miss you all. But I promised my wife that I will not do anything for at least a year.
I'll just add my appreciation, Malcolm. It's been a pleasure to serve with you, and you've taken on some challenging stuff, and you did the Board of Health again for a while, and really appreciate all that. So thank you. Have fun with all your free time. And on that, I'll make a motion to adjourn NRTA.
Second.
Okay, made by Brooke, seconded by Matt. All those in favor by roll call: Matt Fee,
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb,
All right.
Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Don Hill, aye. That carries unanimously 5-0. Okay, so now we will move. Thank you, Gary. Have a nice evening. Now we will move to the May 13th Select Board meeting at 4 minutes till 6. We have a couple of additions to the agenda. There's one additional announcement about Washington Street.
Yep.
Right? And we do have a new business item that was unanticipated. National Grid needs to get an approval for some night work. So we'll go over those when we get to them. Other than that, we'll accept the agenda as provided and move on to announcements. Is that you, Rick?
This meeting of the Select Board is being audio and video recorded. And then a reminder that the 2026 annual town election is scheduled for Tuesday, May 19th, 2026 from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Nantucket High School at 10 Surfside Road. And then due to construction at the site, the valet parking service at the National Grid Candle Street lot will be suspended for the summer. And then the next announcement is about Washington Street.
You missed 2 or 3 and 4, or 2 and 3.
I did?
Yeah.
Oh, you were going to do 2 and 3. I'm so sorry. I skipped right over you.
All right. So just for announcement number 2, the Select Board Planning Board joint appointment. So we have 3 applications for the vacant planning board seat that is going to fill the seat that was held by John Kitchener. The 3 applicants are Liza Hatton, Clay Evans, and Campbell Sutton. That appointment is scheduled to be made by the Select Board and the remaining members of the Planning Board next week on May 20th. And then this is the part of your annual committee appointment process where we announce all the applicants that we received applications for. This list, along with all the committee applications, are in the board's packet for the board and the public to view. Agricultural Commission, we have 2 seats available and 2 applicants, Kelly Steffen and Benjamin Reppert. The Airport Commission, we have 2 seats available and 2 applicants, Tony Buscarin and Scott Wilson. Board of Health, we have 2 seats available and 6 applicants, Ann Smith, Mary Lepre, Amy Beaton, Kate Garrett, Ernie Strang, and Kit Murphy. Cannabis Advisory Committee, we have 2 seats available and 1 applicant, Joe Plandowski. Capital Program Committee, we have 2 seats available and 4 applicants, Christy Kickham, Howard Matz, Mary Longacre, and Barry Rector. Cemetery Commission, we have 2 seats available and 2 applicants, Alan Reinhard and Amelia Holmes. Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee, we have 1 seat available and 0 applicants. Conservation Commission, 2 seats available, 3 applicants, which are Tim Brain, RJ Turcott, and Benjamin Reppert. Contract Review Committee for Human Services, we have 1 seat available and 2 applicants, Linda Williams and Tara Resteri. Council for Human Services, we have 4 seats available and 3 applicants, Jamie Leiss, Kyan Samuels Roberts, and Kelly Steffen. Council on Aging, 3 seats available and 2 applicants, Marianne Easley and Kelsey Gray. Cultural Council, we have 2 seats available and 0 applicants. Finance Committee, 3 seats available and 5 applicants, Joanna Roach, Martin McCarrow, Rob Giachetti, Cindy Bortman-Bodges, and Benjamin Reppert. Historic District Commission Associate, 1 seat available and 2 applicants, David Gray and Joe Paul. Nantucket Affordable Housing Trust, we have 3 seats available and 2 applicants, Brian Sullivan and John Wise. Nantucket Historical Commission, 2 seats available and 2 applicants, Rita Carr and George Butterworth. Planning Board alternate, which is different than the planning board seat you're appointing next week. 1 seat available and 3 applicants, Stephen Welch, Clay Evans, and Dylan Metchempel. Real Estate Assessment Committee, 2 seats available and 3 applicants, Jesse Bell, Nathaniel Lowell, and Lee Tesser. Scholarship Committee, 3 seats available and 1 applicant, Francie Basket. Sign Advisory Council, this is new for you all this year in terms of just staggering the seats. So we've got 5 seats available and 4 applicants. Chris Young, Mark Coutone, Kevin Kuster, and Paul Wolf. Tree Advisory Committee, 3 seats available and 4 applicants. Mary Longacre, Eve Mezing, David Gray, and Benjamin Reppert. Zoning Board of Appeals, 2 seats available and 1 applicant, Elisa Allen. Zoning Board of Appeals alternate, 1 seat available and 1 applicant, Jesse Bell. For any seats that have no applicants or any committees that have less applicants than the amount of seats available, we are going to be doing a second round of appointments following the annual appointments that are being done on June 10th. So if anybody is interested in applying for any of those, all the information is online on the town's website. And now Chuck.
Good evening. Chuck Larson, Manager of Strategic Projects with Town Administration, and Charles Johnson with the Sewer Department. The work on Washington Street, some, positive news. The work started Sunday night, May 3rd. As of this morning, work progressed 10 nights. As of this morning, the deep trenching that required dewatering is complete. Installed items in round numbers, 500 linear feet of pipe. And that was placed along both sides of the roadway. 3 crossings, additionally with pipe, and 10 structures representing manholes and catch basins. David Gray, Charles, and I, were on site as needed at most nights. Some of this included decisions, engineering on the spot based what was really in the ground. And one of the items I think that just seems most memorable is that 2 manholes on the project were actually paved over. One in the driveway of the Harbor Masters building was covered with 5 inches of asphalt. And then across the street, another manhole was covered with a foot of asphalt. So just, a flavor of just some of the challenges that, exist with work like this. The construction crew with N&M Excavating has been superb, and they figured out the dewatering, especially high groundwater and close proximity to the edge of water in the harbor, 150 feet. So some real challenges there, and they were able to do it quite well. As for next steps, site cleanup, waiting on the schedule from the contractor regarding the structural trench repairs. Schedule-wise, the project is ahead of schedule, and we're staying within budget. And lastly, thank you to the public for your patience and understanding as we're doing this work. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any opening select board announcements or comments?
Yeah.
Brooke?
Just before this meeting, it is National Police Week, and upstairs earlier this evening, the chief awarded commendations to 4 officers, 2 for an emergency rescue and a life-saving award, and 2 for reinvigorating the Citizens Police Academy. And so I was honored to be present. Matt was there and Malcolm was there. And it's a good reminder that our police officers serve us every day, and this week is set aside for us to remember that. So
I was there too. It was very nice. I was there. It's all right.
I was blocking.
I was in the corner.
And Dawn was there.
Anybody else? Okay, next up, I do have an update on prior public comments. On April 29th, a public comment was delivered during the Nantucket Select Board meeting. As the public comment referenced an ongoing personnel matter, the town is limited to information and details that it can share that might otherwise add additional context, clarity, or balance to a story. The following is a statement from the Nantucket Police Chief, Jody Casper. While I would like to share more information, I am not able to do so at this time. More broadly, as Chief of Police, I have a responsibility to address concerning behavior within our work environment. I hold myself and members of this department to the high standards that our community expects and deserves. When those standards are not met, it is my duty to ensure that the matter is addressed appropriately. I remain committed to maintaining a department grounded in professionalism, integrity, and service. That's the end of the quote. That was it for responses to public comments from our last meeting. Next up, we do have public comments that are otherwise not on our agenda for discussion. We do limit these comments to 3 minutes per speaker. And the entire public policy is in our packet. And I will move to Amy Eldridge is at the mic.
Hi, Amy Eldridge. I just wanted to make a couple comments in regards to town meeting, especially Article 73. I think it was really clear on the floor of town meeting that we weren't against a private citizens funding the geotubes. I think the feedback that we got on the floor was the way the Concom had been changed out due to not having agreements between the select board and them as to holding the Sconset Beach people to things that were promised and guaranteed in their contract. And I think the legislators on the floor of town meeting made it very clear and voted that down. It's not that they don't want it. I think they just don't like how the demographics on the Concom changed with the removal of 3 people who have very decent science backgrounds, because the board may at the times may not have agreed with the outcomes that they wanted to push forward with holding them responsible for, contaminated sand going over the beach and other issues. So giving them an extension without them being able to prove that they were in compliance with a previous contract made no sense to the floor of town meeting. My next comments are about our island home. I'm not against the nursing home. I've had my own issues in there, and everybody here is aware of that. But I have really concerned that there was not a lot of data put out about the cost to the taxpayers over the next 25 years on the passage of the building. I mean, we're talking. I was here for the pro forma. At like year 7, we're talking about adding another 3 million to the 5 million we're going to give them forever, and then by year 15, we could be up to 10 to 15 million dollars. And then you multiply that every year over a 25-year span, that's $300 million to operate our island home and a building that's 137. The money doesn't just stop at the building of this building. There's going to be significant costs to the operations, the maintenance, and the care of that building. And I just want people to be realize the financial obligation that's going to be asked of us year after year after year for our island home. I get the whole heartfelt emotions, but there are some big dollars, and we spent a lot of money at town meeting this year. And I really hope that you guys consider that when you're voting at the polls on the 19th. Thank you.
Burton Balkind is online.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Burton Balkind. I also want to make some comments about town meeting, but first I want to thank the select board, all the election officials, and all the townspeople that went. It was really appreciated that we get to have our voice heard. Like Amy, I would also like to talk about Article 73. And I agree with a lot of her comments. I would just like to extend an olive branch, if you will, and hopefully in the future the select board can um, schedule a public meeting that we can see how we can move forward in this process. And I think, as Amy spoke to, the people did want their voices heard, and I think having a public meeting and maybe hashing out some things, and maybe we could get the project back in compliance and then revisit it in a year if that's even possible. But I think I want to bring us together now. I think that it showed a pretty evenly divided floor. Let's try and bring us together in the future. And finally, I wanted to specifically thank Malcolm and Tom. Both of them were very good listeners, and I think that's probably one of the most important attributes you can have as a member of the select board. I always felt like if I talk to them and they listen. So I hope the people that replace them have those same listening skills. Thanks again, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Next up, just please identify yourself.
Hello, my name is Chris Tolman. I am an essential 911 dispatcher who was evicted from town housing. 2 years ago, after a verbal complaint was made to Deputy Chief Gibson regarding the breach of contract, we were promised 14 spots at the training that MPD would be providing for the community service officers. Leading up to the training, several emails were exchanged regarding uniforms and appropriate sizes. When we arrived there were no uniforms provided for the dispatchers. However, every single CSO was suited up and ready for the training. Only the CSOs were allowed to complete the training that day and went on to earn thousands and thousands of dollars in detail work. What the public may not know is that to become a certified flagger in the state of Massachusetts, you must meet the state requirements. Nantucket Police Department did not. In 2025, NPD provided the same fraudulent training again for the CSOs, fully aware it was not compliant, but also fully aware it would continue to keep us dispatchers on the sidelines. Of course, we were not invited in 2025. For 2 years under the Casper administration, every single one of these CSOs went on to direct traffic, ways, school crossings, putting every pedestrian, motorist, child, and themselves at great liability due to this department's inability to make things right. It's been a 2.5 year battle. It's a shame on this town and the select board for not righting these wrongs. And I just hope I don't get fired tomorrow in the lobby of the police department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Nantucket Select Board. My name is Chris Reynolds. I am also a dispatcher in this very building. Let me start by thanking you for the chance to speak, to address you, all the citizens in this room, and everybody tuning in through NCTV right now. I've served here on Nantucket for the last 10 years and another 8 years on the Cape before that for the Orleans Police Department. I say this to impress upon you the importance that the field of public service holds in my heart. This is not a job. At the very least, it is a career, but at its most pure, it's a calling. I have answered that call just like my father and his brothers before me. 2 served in Vietnam. The other 4 were in the fire service for years. 2 of them retired as captains. So yes, you could say that public service runs in my blood. It's in my DNA. It's who I am. I intended to read a statement tonight regarding the timeline of the grievance that myself and the other dispatchers are currently engaged in against the town. But then I took a step back and thought that I should probably seek the counsel of my attorney first to make sure I was making the right decision. He told me not to. His exact words were, You've got your job and family to think about. I know it's upsetting, but you're sticking your neck out. I decided to heed his advice and stay quiet. But then, as I was leaving the house to come here tonight, planning only to attend out of solidarity, I looked my wife and daughter in the eye, and that's when it hit me. I wanted to continue to be able to look them in the eye, and also myself. I needed to speak up. What's happening here is wrong. The fact that I felt the need to seek legal counsel before speaking the truth is wrong. This is America. We fight for what's right here. No one should feel the way that I and my fellow dispatchers feel right now. As I said previously, I have been a dispatcher for 18 years and a member of the general workforce for over 27 years. And in all those years, I have never seen a more demoralized group than myself and my fellow dispatchers are at this very moment. Now, 2 weeks ago today, our assistant supervisor, Patrick Considine, stood before this very board to speak on our behalf. The hope that this would finally be the turning point in our struggle quickly turned to despair when, the very next day, he was fired. Despite this, we continue to come to work every day to do our jobs with quiet courage. We give our all serving the members of this community, often in the worst moments of their lives. We do it despite the ever-present fear of discipline or termination, because if they can do it to Pat, they can do it to any of us. We do it because we all feel the call of public service and because nobody else on this island can do what we do. So I ask you now to do what is right and help us in our struggle for what is contractually owed to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Considine, former 911 Communications Assistant Supervisor. The last time you saw me was April 29th. Less than 24 hours later, I was fired. Adding insult to injury, Human Resource Director Amanda Perry served me termination papers in the public first floor lobby of the police department in front of coworkers and community members rather than privately in the HR office. So how did we get here? After living on Nantucket for 10 years, I finally found my career path in 2015 when I was hired as a 911 dispatcher at MPD. During my time at MPD, as both dispatcher and supervisor, there has never been one instance where I have been disciplined internally or have had a public complaint filed against me. In fact, not only was I promoted to operate the 911 Communications Department under Chief Pittman in 2023, the position was created specifically for me. Then everything changed. Chief Jody Casper, since becoming Chief of Police in 2024, the 911 Communications Department has lost 4 dispatchers on your watch. Due to the hostile work environment you have created, 2 tenured dispatchers retired as a means of escape, and as you all know, I was terminated. And just hours later, another dispatcher resigned. This is not okay. In fact, a recent evaluation of the 911 Communications Department conducted by an independent outside company hired by Casper concluded that the department should be staffed with 12 full-time employees. Chief Casper currently only has 9 full-time employees heading into the Nantucket's busiest season. An understaffed, underappreciated 911 center is a recipe for disaster that no one in this community can afford. For more than a decade, I have proudly served this island alongside my fellow dispatchers, who frankly have become more like family. In fact, I can assure you that while they are answering the worst call of your lives, they are also sometimes dealing with the worst moments of their own, but they continue to show up proudly to serve. I was wrongfully terminated. Along with my union counsel, I will be appearing before the select board tomorrow to once again defend myself. The only difference this time is the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination has started a formal investigation into the Nantucket Police Department. In closing, I do have a few questions that need to be addressed by this board. Town Manager Gibson, why did you ignore a notarized statement submitted to you by Supervisor Melinda Burns, a 42-year town employee who clearly stated she witnessed Training Lieutenant Brendan Coakley threaten me? You will never do details no matter what your contract states, while standing in the middle of the communications department in May 2024. HR Director Amanda Perry, why did you allow investigator Arthur Parker to continue to interrogate dispatcher Perez after she invoked her rights to union counsel 4 to 5 times? In fact, can you confirm he responded with, well, The town needs to do their job. Lastly, before I go, Town Manager Gibson, how is your relationship with Deputy Police Chief Charles Gibson not considered a conflict of interest or ethical issue? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Campbell Sutton. I don't have anything to say on that, so sorry. I had wanted to thank I think it's the landfill. I noticed that they were advertising their Nantucket Gold, which is a compost that I have been using for the last few years and never really saw it advertised, promoted. And I thought, wow, I've really found a good product here. So now I hate to see what's going to happen to the cost, but I was very appreciative. It was a very informative web page, showed you many ways in which you can incorporate this product that comes in a burlap bag, which composts by itself. I mean, the whole thing from beginning to end is great. You don't end up with plastic bags on plastic bags. So I've always appreciated that. The other thing I want, so yay to Nantucket Gold. The other thing is I actually wanted to thank the public and those who voted in support of our island home. I did not promote passage of that article because I was completely unaware of the future costs. I think that was put forward a number of times, and it was, it was information you could find and you could see that it was going to grow. I think the cost of bread is going to grow over the next 20 years too. So I don't think, all things being equal, there doesn't appear to be a downward trend in anything, any cost. Looking forward to it if it is, though. The other thing about town meeting that I appreciated was if you got there early and you're sitting there and some people were chatting on the screen in front, some of the videos that the town was running were running on the screen. And I found that very helpful because I didn't get to every video and sort of broke things down. So I thought that was really a good way to help inform people that really haven't been keeping up on the warrant kind of thing. And with that, I hope you all have a good night. Thanks.
Thank you. Holly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Holly Backus. I'm here as a private citizen and a resident, and a mother and a Girl Scout troop leader. I wanted to ask what we, the town, could do to fill in the gap of the Memorial Day Parade. This is a very important community event, and I understand there's some issues that probably that American Legion couldn't oversee. But I think that we've got plenty of people here on Nantucket that could bound together. But of course, we would need our public service, our public safety in order to do a parade. One, to continue the tradition, but two, I see it as an issue if we are all going to go to the cemetery in vehicles, because for those of you who have walked with us every year, that's less traffic on the roads, as well as less cars that have to be up at the cemetery. I think it would be great if we, from all the troops, the police department, fire department, all of us that have done this in the past, obviously, and any of the veterans that want to participate, but I think not having the parade is a disservice, even if we can't get somebody to come, a band. So I just look to the town to fill that need. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment this evening? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the new business item.
Okay. So I received just this afternoon a request from Kobo Utility asking for a waiver of the noise bylaw to do National Grid night work on South Beach Street at Whalers Lane. Just so you know, National Grid and Verizon had installed a new pole at South Beach Street at Whalers Lane last week, and Grid encountered some issues with there's a switching transformer there. So they need to de-energize the area in order to fix it, which means everybody's going to lose their power. Obviously, if that happened during the day, it would have a huge impact on area businesses and restaurants and everything. So the plan is to do it in the evening after everyone is closed. Um, technically, the noise bylaw goes into effect at 8 p.m. in the downtown core. So I would just say, I would ask maybe to grant it from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m., but knowing that they're not going to do the work until whatever time, where it won't impact the restaurants. And because they don't have a timeline on this, it could be literally next week. I just wanted to get this on in front of you, so that this work could get done in a timely manner.
Questions?
So we don't have a date.
Not yet.
Okay, but
They said it could be within the next 3 weeks.
Okay.
Um,
okay, so I'm gonna move approval. It sounds like it's necessary, with the caveat that they inform you and we can put out
Oh, yeah.
on social media the date as far in advance as possible so people can prepare.
Mhm.
So with that caveat, I move approval.
And I'll second that in my comment. How big a swath is it gonna impact? How many homes, how big an area is it?
I don't know the answer to that. I believe it's definitely like all of the strip. I would assume the Nantucket Yacht Club area, that whole area. So just really trying to limit that
Okay.
in terms of the impacts.
And I'll add to my motion that they do this after business hours so they go to the trouble to find out when the affected businesses are closed.
Yep.
Okay.
In some ways, in some ways, they're better off doing, if it's gonna push into close to Memorial Day or the holiday, they're better off doing it on a Tuesday night, Tuesday or Wednesday, when people are sort of not busy than they are, and they're not gonna do it on the weekend.
No.
But I think pick the right day and the right time, and some people would say, okay, we'll close a few hours early to get this done, rather than have it pushed another week or two later when they're busy every day.
Yeah, in some restaurants, there are certain days that they aren't open during the week. So I'll be sure to coordinate that with Kobo. But it's also a coordination with National Grid because they both need to be on.
Yeah. One of those things, the sooner they do it now, the better.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, motion made by Brooke, seconded by Matt. All those in favor by roll call, Matt Fee.
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb.
Aye.
Brooke Moore.
Aye.
Tom Dixon.
Aye.
Don Hill, aye. That carries unanimously 5-0. Next up, we have approval of minutes, warrants, and pending contracts.
So you are missing still 2 sets of minutes, April 27th at 11 a.m. and April 30th at 2 p.m. So please do not include that in your motion.
I'll move to approve all but those two.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call, made by Matt, seconded by Malcolm. Matt Fee.
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb.
Aye.
Brooke Moore.
We're doing all 4 items
Yes.
in the motion. Yeah. Okay. Aye.
Tom Dixon.
Aye.
Don Hill, aye. That carries unanimously 5-0. Next up, we have Citizen Departmental Committee requests and reports, the Affordable Housing Trust quarterly update.
Good evening, everybody. Dylan Metchampel, the town's Deputy Housing Director. I'm going to take us through a quarterly report of the Affordable Housing Trust, so January 2026 through the end of March 2026, although because of the timing of town meeting, I'm here a little later, so there's some additions that are technically probably Q2, so you'll get a sneak peek. Thank you, Erica. You can go to the next slide.
I'm going to give you this.
Ooh.
And you're gonna give them that much control? All right.
Giving it over.
You're gonna be in trouble. We'll see.
So just to start with a quick overview, I'm going to talk briefly about some new housing opportunities, cover the active projects and programs that we've been working on, give an update on the subsidized housing inventory or SHI list update, talk about some of the advocacy work we're doing, and then there'll be time for questions at the end. And here's a picture of me and Christy after the Tacoma Green groundbreaking. So just sort of an announcement. There's a lottery going on for 6 home ownership opportunities at Sandpiper Place. So there's 2 3-bedroom single family homes restricted to 80% area median income, 2 3-bedroom duplexes also restricted to 80% area median income, and 2 3-bedroom duplexes that are restricted at 175% area median income. So this is not the Affordable Housing Trust. This is being done through Housing Nantucket, but we wanted to share this. The slides, which are in the packet, do have income limits and information about the sale prices, as well as a link to where you can apply. So I just wanted to start by sharing that. So now on to our current projects and programs. As I just mentioned briefly, on March 19th, we had the groundbreaking ceremony for Tacoma Green, started in this room and then moved over a little ways that way to the actual site. So this is 64 rental units, 55 of which are income restricted between 30% and 120% area median income. It's what's called a twinning LIHTC project. So it uses both 4% and 9% low income housing tax credits. And there's also 9 market rate units in there. All 64 are on the shy list. And at the groundbreaking, the town of Nantucket was joined by the developer, Hall Keen and Norton Point, as well as other partners in the projects, including the designers, Rockland Trust, Mass Housing, folks on the select board, and folks on the Affordable Housing Trust. So it was a great day. Quick update on the Habitat for Humanity project over on Waite Drive, which is utilizing Affordable Housing Trust funds. Good news, still on schedule and still on budget. About 77% of the funds have been spent to date, and we're seeing families are beginning to move in, which is a good segue into our closing cost assistance program, which provides up to $15,000 in a forgivable loan to assist with home buyers and with their closing costs. In this quarter, we awarded 4 applicants, including one of the families moving into the Waite Drive Habitat for Humanity homes, and we are anticipating in Q2 and the rest of the year seeing more applications to the CCAP program because of the ongoing lotteries and habitat projects. Another active project, and I see Kelly's here from the development team, colloquially called New Downtown, so 18 to 26 Sparks Avenue. This is 32 total rental units. 8 are restricted to 80% area median income or below, so all 32 are eligible for the shy list. 15 have actually already been put on the shy list. That happened last week, and I'll give an update on that in a minute, and the remaining 17 will be added once the building permits are pulled. But next time you're at Stop and Shop, take a look. You can see the buildings going up across the way. And then we also have 135 and 137 Orange Street and 12 and 12R Bartlett. This is part of a bundled RFP that we put out, including 16A through C Vesper Lane. That's going to be done separately. And use separate funding, but at Orange Street and Bartlett, there's going to be a total of 40 units for workforce housing development. So we're actively working on that. You might have seen yesterday, if you're down in the Brant Point, Cliff Road, or Matticat Road areas, that we have officially moved moved units from 41 Jefferson Avenue to 158 Matticat Road. This was a big collaborative partnership with the Nantucket Land Bank and the Affordable Housing Trust, and a lot of folks to make it happen, including Erica. Thank you, Erica. 3 of the units are from 41 Jefferson have now been relocated. They're going to be 2. They're all going to be home ownership units. 2 will be restricted to 150% area median income, and 1 will be market rate or restricted to 240 or 250 area median income. And the other 2 units on the site, the land bank will be relocating for employee housing at another location.
Question on those, Dylan?
Yeah.
Will those be a lottery as well? Those will be allocated via lottery?
Yeah. We'll go through a fair housing marketing plan. as I mentioned, the buildings, I see when I wrote it, I said the building move started yesterday, and today I can say that the building move started and finished. They're all on the site, which is great. Just to sort of further emphasize, the project itself works within existing zoning using the double covenant program. We're saving materials and money through reuse and relocating the structure. We actually salvaged a bunch of the materials from one of the units that had to be destroyed and able to make the unit work. And we have those in storage and will be used as part of the reconstruction and redesign. And we really see it's a great project in and of itself, but we also think it's a great example for future collaborations with the land bank and other nonprofits for what we can do to think creatively about conserving and creating housing without necessarily going through a full development process. And so our estimated completion is probably around this time next year for when they're actually going through the lottery. Another exciting update. We recently got the news that 15 units over in the Sparks Avenue development were added to our shy list. So we have gone from 8.04% to 8.28%, or 512 units on our way to the 618 that we need. As I already mentioned, we will be requesting that all 32 units, so the remaining 17 will be added, at which point we'll be up to 529 units, or a little over 8.5%. And just as a reminder, we are currently in safe harbor from Chapter 40B through December 10th, 2027. So making our way to 10%. This is a program I'm really excited about, the rental preservation program. It's designed to support property owners with pre-existing year-round and affordable leases. So it's a complementary program to our Lease to Locals program, which provides financial incentives to folks with short-term rentals or underutilized properties in exchange for converting to year-round. This supports the people who are already renting year-round to provide them with extra funding as the cost of living increases. So it's a supplemental to our existing toolbox. The RFP, or the request for proposals, is for the program administrator, is going through the procurement process currently. Once it's released and we're able to select a program, once it's released and we're able to select an administrator, we'll then launch the program. And you can see here I included information about how the actual incentive installment will work. So at 0 months with the application received and approved, you'll receive $2,700 up front. At the end of the first year, you'll receive another $2,700. So in the first year, $5,400. At the end of the second year, you'll get another $5,400. And at the end of the third year, you get $7,200 for a total payment of $18,000. And it's structured so that the big payouts are at the end to encourage participation throughout the course of the program.
And I just want to add that the way we structured the program is that as people apply for this funding, the more affordably the landlord rents, the higher they're prioritized in the selection process, right, Dylan?
Right.
So that we're really trying to preserve these naturally occurring affordable units. And we've heard a lot from folks who say, I've been doing the right thing all along, not, charging really high gouging rents, and cost of insurance and home ownership and repairs are going through the roof. And so this allows homeowners to continue to rent affordably, and we're giving them a little help on, sort of the difference between what it's really costing them to own the property and what they're renting it to year round.
Through you, Madam Chair, thank you, Brooke, for adding that. And this, as a reminder, the select board had previously approved funding for this, so we're just going through the procurement process. And anecdotally, I hear weekly from folks who are really interested and excited about this program, and so just asking them to wait a little longer, because procurement can take a little while, and so we're just getting it up off the ground. And here we have a website created on the town's website. You can use the QR code to access it if you're in the audience or want to go through the packet online. And there is a form. The screenshot on the slide deck is a form for you to indicate your interest as either a homeowner or a tenant, and that way you can stay up to date more easily. But you're more than welcome to give my office a call if that's easier. And just a quick update on the complimentary program, Lease to Locals. As a quick reminder, it's a multi-year financial incentive that provides up to $47,250 for converting property into year-round rentals for qualified local tenants. So the program is in its third year, started in 2023, and it's converted a total of 48 units and provided housing for 113 year-round tenants, including 25 children. This quarter, we had 10 lease ups and 4 new property owners looking for tenants, and we're in the process of launching, doing a postcard campaign and launching some advertising. So we're hoping that will pick up again. Another big program that we saw some action on this quarter, the year-round deed restriction pilot program. So again, as a reminder, this is designed to offer financial incentives to homeowners in exchange for the placement of a permanent year-round deed restriction on their property. We went through 2 rounds of pilot programs. In the first round, we received 6 applicants. Of those 6, 3 were qualified. And after going through the RFP committee, 1 is moving forward with the placement of the deed restriction. In the second round, we received 2 applicants. 1 was qualified, and the staff are currently going through the due diligence process for it. So we were hoping that this program would receive more successful applications, but even still, the pilot program really served its purpose of us understanding how this process works. We're really leading the state and being able to provide this and understanding what the challenges are and having to go through procurement. So while we'd love it if there were more than 2 year-round deed restrictions, we've learned a lot from it, and we'll have stuff moving forward. And as Seasonal Communities 2.0 bill goes through the legislature, it may provide opportunity for us to run the program more effectively without an income restriction, so just a year-round restriction, and without having to go through the procurement process. We are also working on our housing production plan. It's been a very busy quarter. So the town is required to complete the HPP, or housing production plan, every 5 years. What the HPP does is identifies affordable housing needs through a state regulated plan, which is, when it's completed, approved by the state, and it's necessary for Chapter 40B safe harbor. To date, we have finished we're working with Barrett Planning to do this, and the Barrett Planning team has completed stakeholder interviews, their first housing workshop, the first phase of the survey, and we've reviewed the housing needs assessment draft, which the trust has had the opportunity to provide feedback on. And going forward, the Barrett Planning Group will be providing updates at the Affordable Housing Trust's meeting. So if you're interested, please come to those, the first and third Tuesday of every month. And we are going to be having a second workshop on June 1st, which this one will be hybrid. So there will be more opportunities for folks to be involved. And there's a second round of survey available online that you can access. And we expect the release of the HPP draft over the summer. And here's just a link to where you can access the actual survey. Back in March, the Affordable Housing Trust held a joint meeting with the Planning Board and the Board of Health. I think it was a really productive conversation around the Board of Health's proposed septic regulation amendments. And I just wanted to talk, the conversations were around how to advance the implementation of innovative alternative or IA septic systems while mitigating the financial impact on residents. So IA systems are much more efficient at regulating nutrient and nitrogen release. I'm sure John Hedden would be more articulate than I am on that, but it's better for the environment. But they are very expensive, especially compared to standard systems. And so the meeting was a great example of effective interdepartmental and cross-board collaboration, focusing on all of the select board's many of the select board's priorities between environmental leadership, housing, and effective and efficient town operations. So I just wanted to give a little shout out to that joint meeting. I hate this picture, but Christie and Senator Sear look great in it, so I wanted to include it. We've been working on some advocacy updates. As I mentioned, Seasonal Communities 2.0 is currently working its way through the legislature. So we're working with Senator Sear and the Seasonal Communities Advisory Council and other seasonal communities across the state to really make sure that what Seasonal Communities is designed for works and is effective, especially in an environment as unique as Nantucket. We applied and received a Seasonal Communities grant, which is going to be was used for legal counsel for Article 66 at town meeting, which was the amendment of the Declaration of Trust. So the trust can now provide assistance up to 250% area median income and work with year-round deed restrictions, year-round occupancy restrictions, should say. The funding will also go towards the rehabilitation of 71 Surfside and due diligence and pre-construction for Orange Street and Bartlett Road, the projects I mentioned earlier. And we are working on with the public schools on a spring advocacy day, Wednesday, June 17th. So if you're interested in joining us, please do. And it'll be a great day. We'll be meeting with Senator Sear and his team, as well as Representative Moakley. And just to wrap up, I'd like to, echo the chorus of thanks to Malcolm and Tom. It's been great working with you, and sad for it to be the last meeting. And I'm happy to take any questions. Thanks.
Any questions?
One, if we can go back to the Jefferson Ave buildings. My understanding, those are you don't have to go to the screen.
Oh.
You can either way.
Oh.
But you're the land bank is paying and getting them onto their foundations and et cetera. They're doing their part of it. And then you are completing the buildings, the interiors, and who's doing that, and who's in charge, and will there be a budget that I can look at?
So we have a memorandum of understanding that delineates,
Which I've read that.
the responsibilities. We have not gone out to bid yet for the work that will be done at 150 in Nantucket. So I don't have that for you today, but there certainly will be.
There will be, and there'll be a budget. No, okay, good.
Yeah,
I would love to see that.
Yeah. And it's a very interesting collaboration. And one of the things that we've talked a lot about is there's sort of a delineation of responsibility from the move, siting them, pouring the foundations, setting the buildings, and then the responsibility transfers from the land bank, fiscal and oversight from the land bank to the housing office. And so there's been really a lot of talk about oversight, construction management, monitoring. There is an OPM for this project that will serve throughout. And the procurement's being done with land bank, so it's one contract for the entire project.
The land bank will be in, the land bank procurement will include putting the buildings back together and the interiors too.
Right, but oversight and financial responsibility shift to the housing office and the Affordable Housing Trust once those buildings are set on the foundations. So
Matt, they can't hear you very well online. You just need to get
Maybe I need another.
get closer to your mic, I think. It was pretty far away.
I normally don't have that problem. Am I better now? I'm usually loudmouth, but okay. Yeah, might have a bad mic. Anyway, I just want to make sure that we can check that and sort of,
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think those buildings, I took a look at them, and those were great buildings to be moving. They were built in the right era. They're sturdy and strong, and I think it's great that we were able to reuse those. So, and I got an up close and personal when they drove by yesterday.
They are great buildings.
And those were the biggest ones yesterday, I was told.
Yeah.
Tuesdays.
Yes. Yeah. So there's the two buildings that will be going to the Nantucket Land Bank sites are still down at 41 Jefferson. They'll be moved next week.
Yeah.
I will say those were some of the easiest house moves we've had in quite some time. Believe it or not.
Okay. Thanks, Dawn.
Thanks. I think I have the next two also. So.
Next up, we have a request for approval of a sewer connection fees and sewer capacity fee waivers for the 80% area median income or less for the new downtown located at 20 through 26 Sparks Avenue.
So Dylan Metropolitan Town's Deputy Housing Director. So yes, this is a sewer connection and capacity fee waivers request for 18 to 26 Sparks Avenue. The request is consistent with past practices, and it will aid in the creation of year-round affordable rentals for 8 Nantucket families. Just for context, the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, the EOHLC, has approved the Local Initiative Program, or LIP, application, which allows for all 32 rental units to be included on the SHI list, since 25% or 8 of them are income restricted at 80% area median income or below. All 32 will be restricted to year-end occupancy with strict STR or short-term rental prohibitions. And 15, as I mentioned, have already been added to the SHI list. I just want to add briefly that the developer did request a waiver for all units since they are restricted to year-round use. However, the current sewer policy waiver does not include a provision for year-round relief. And so this request is just for waiving the sewer connection capacity fees for the 8 income restricted units. But the housing department would like to ask the board to consider setting a future agenda item to discuss amending the policy to allow for relief for year-round restricted units in support of the select board's strategic plan's emphasis on year-round housing. But the request is for the approval tonight.
Okay.
I'll make I'll make a motion to approve. If it fits our policy.
Is there a second?
I'm going to second it with a comment, if I may, Madam Chair.
Sure.
I thought a lot about this, right? And it's a little bit of which pocket are we taking money out of, but I'd like, when we talk about the policy, I'd like to discuss whether or not we should create a fund that's funded by affordable housing money that would pay the sewer fees rather than waive them. I think it's about having the money coming from the correct place to fund affordable housing. And I don't know the impacts, but it's just a thought I've had several times when we've done these, and I think it's worthy of a conversation when we review the entire policy.
And Madam Chair, I have just one question. Are there not also commercial establishments in these buildings? It's just not housing, right?
One of the buildings, maybe Kelly can speak to this more effectively, but I think one of the buildings does have a commercial component. But these waivers are just for the 8 residential income restricted.
Okay, fine.
Units. Yeah.
I just don't want to give waivers to a commercial establishment.
No.
And I think, yeah, and I'll follow up. I was thinking something similar. I think Brooke is onto something, but at town meeting, we didn't put a potential of 25% betterments on a project. And if they're like, we have to look at the whole picture, because I think the people that are on the tax base, on your sewer fees and everything else, are going up and up. And so we've got to find a way that we can do it without burdening the existing people. And I think that we also have to look at what's fair and equitable. And I remember back when we did, started doing some of the new plant and sewers, it was what's in was in, what's out was out. And we found a way to make people on septic, sort of equal to people who are on sewer. And we found a way that those fees worked. But as we move along, if we're going to, waive Monomoy and waive somewhere else, then that is potentially becoming less equitable. And I think we really have to dive into it and understand the numbers so that we're treating everybody fairly. And so I think it's a bigger discussion than, oh, geez, let's help affordable housing. Which is important, but it's a discussion of how do we make sure we can help, that pocket without hurting someone else. I think Brooke's onto an idea, as long as we look at the whole picture. So.
Yeah, we should specifically agenda the item, but I mean, when we had initially approved these waivers, it was very specifically because the rent was capped. And I mean, I think that there's a viable discussion to be had about it being restricted to year round, but we're seeing properties that are being rented year round that just people are seeing very dramatic increases in their rents with no real way to put a ceiling on it. So I think that that would be worthy of some discussion. If there are waivers granted, they can only go up a certain amount every year. But again, we can talk about that later. So can we move back to the motion?
Yes.
So it was made by Matt, seconded by Brooke. All those in favor by roll call. Matt Fee.
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb. Brooke Moore.
Aye.
Tom Dixon.
Aye.
Don Hill, aye. That carries unanimously 5-0. And then part B is a request for acceptance of an affordable housing restriction from Habitat for Humanity for 20 Nancy Ann Lane.
Yes. So yes, this is a request for the approval and execution of the acceptance of affordable housing restriction at 20 Nancy Ann Lane. The developer, Habitat for Humanity, is planning to construct 4 home ownership residential units on the site. All 4 will be restricted at no more than 80% area median income, and they'll all be SHI list eligible, or subsidized housing inventory list eligible. Habitat will be submitting an application to the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities for the addition of these units to the SHI list. And at that point, we will have a regulatory agreement from the EOHLC, which will be received and recorded. But in the meantime, the affordable housing restriction is recorded as a placeholder.
I move approval.
Second.
Made by Brooke, seconded by Matt. All those in favor by roll call. Matt Fee.
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb.
Aye.
Brooke Moore.
Aye.
Tom Dixon.
Aye.
Don Hill, aye. That carries unanimously 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dylan. Next up, we have a follow-up from our April 29th dangerous dog hearing to receive a report from the animal behavioral specialist. And I believe Dr. Terry Bright is online.
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I don't want to interrupt. This is Brian Riley.
And Brian Riley from Town Council.
I just think because this is basically a continuation of the hearing a couple weeks ago, that anyone who's going to offer, testimony, should be sworn in. And then at the end of that, the board can talk about what changes, if any, it wants to make to its order.
Okay. Dr. Bright, could you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. And Melanie Kodalak is here, but if she wants to speak, you were sworn in last time. So that's okay, Brian, right? Okay. Go ahead.
Yes, that's fine.
So did the board have questions for me in particular, or do you want me to go over my findings when I met with Melanie and her dog, Pedro?
I think we'd like you to go over your findings and potentially give us a recommendation on how we should do our job in regard to having any stipulations or restrictions for the community.
I'm glad to do it. So I met with Melanie and Pedro last Wednesday and at Angel Animal Medical Center, where I've been a behaviorist for almost 20 years. And I learned that she had gotten him when he was 6 months old from St. Martin, and that he had been trained early on an electronic collar, and that she spends time in Costa Rica in the winter, and he hadn't had any real formal obedience training, that he was very social with people. He liked people a lot. He was good with most dogs. He was afraid of some dogs. And that he had killed rabbits that she knew of, and that she had come to see me after the tragedy. And I'm very sorry to hear about this, and I do want to extend my condolences to the family of the cat who was killed. But it seems that she was invited to walk him with a friend and a friend's dog, and he was in the yard and had gone after their cat and chased it into the house and grabbed it and killed it. And I met the dog. He came into my office and he was a little nervous when he came in. He was wearing an electronic collar. He drank some water, but he just lay down on the floor. And Melanie and I talked at great length about his history and what had happened. She was really upset about it. And we talked about what happens to make behavior be what it is. And we kind of look at the nature-nurture thing where dogs inherit some behaviors and they learn some behaviors. And because of where he's from, St. Martin, the island, he's most likely, in my opinion, and as I wrote in my report, more like a village dog. So 75% of dogs in the world are unowned. They live kind of in proximity to people. They scavenge to eat. They have relationships with people and with different dogs. And he's very interesting in that way because he's good with most dogs and he's terrific with people. He was very social with me and with my staff. And Melanie let me know that he was very social with the people that he had met. And that's unusual for a dog with his background, but we think it's because he was in a shelter, a really good shelter with a lot of people who socialized him well. Unfortunately, many dogs have predatory tendencies. humans, I mean, the whole predatory sequence, if I can go through it, in dogs who were evolved from wolves, is to first orient to something, then to think of a border collie with eye. They really stare at it, they stalk it, they might chase it, grab it, and bite it. And the last stage in that is to shake and kill another animal. That's how they would feed themselves on an evolutionary scale. And humans have bred dogs to follow different portions of these. You think of the terriers. I had terriers all my life. Were trained and rewarded for shaking and killing things. So these are not behaviors that are malicious. They're heartbreaking when they happen to other people's pets. I understand that he's also chased deer, which is something that's usually happens in the country. Groups of dogs will get together and chase deer and run deer down. So this, again, it's not abnormal behavior in a dog. It is not socially acceptable, which is why most towns and states have leash laws so that we can keep dogs safe. And so Melanie and I discussed at great length, and I demonstrated with her the things that I felt would be good for her to train him. He's a sweet dog. He needs rewards-based training. So she has relied on using the electronic collar, which delivers an aversive stimulus when the dog does something that you don't want them to do. So you suppress behavior that way. But unless you teach other behaviors, then the dog doesn't know what you want them to do. They haven't learned new behaviors. And there can be side effects of the electronic collars as well, that if someone even is just calling their dog back to them by pressing the stim button, if the dog is looking at something in the environment, they can make that superstitious association that what they're looking at has caused that aversive sensation. So I asked her to stop using the e-collar and to rely on a leash. I showed her how to hold the leash safely. She showed me with my demonstration that she can hold the dog without being pulled over. We assessed best reinforcers for him in order to teach new behaviors, and the behaviors that I advised her to teach and that we demonstrated and did in my clinic at Angel were the leave it behavior, which a lot of people teach their dog. They drop their sandwich and they don't want the dog to pick it up. So they teach the word leave it, which technically, if you think about it, means stop looking at that and look at me. And so in my clinic, we teach that when we want a dog to look away from something. I use it with my dog when there's someone coming on a motorcycle. I say, leave it. She looks like right at me for a treat. So leave it is something that we worked on, and he was terrific at it. He had not learned that formally in the way I teach it, which is not just wait a minute and then eat what's there, but look away from that at me. So that is something that can be used when he's on leash, walking in the neighborhood. If he sees a cat, a squirrel, another dog, a person, anybody like that, she can say, leave it. And it's pretty easy. He will just start to look at her when she says that. I also demonstrated to her how to teach him to walk in heel position at her side. We like this for dogs who are fast runners and who are excitable and who might be nervous about some things. I think he's nervous about some dogs, that we want them to stay in the 3 feet around us. And then if he's going to run, if she wants him to run and stretch his legs, then she can use the Sniff Spot app, which is actually an app where you can rent someone's yard that is fenced in, and in a fenced in with a 6-foot fence, then Pedro could run in that yard, or she could do recall practice with him on a long line. I recommend people using a long leash, a 20-foot leash, to teach a recall and to teach running. So everything that he needs to do and to have a good life is available right there. We also teach the come front behavior, which is a well-tested old obedience behavior, where when you take a step back, the dog turns and looks at you. And you use this if there's something ahead that you don't that they haven't seen yet, and you want them to focus on you instead, an animal in the environment or something they might be afraid of. And then, of course, the recall is something that we use all the time. You need to be able to call your dog back to you. We also fit him for a muzzle. And I recommended to her that if he's going to be in proximity to somebody's cat or a small creature that was a domesticated animal that might look like a rabbit to him, that he should be muzzled, but that I don't think that he needs to be muzzled 24/7, only in situations where there's a risk that he could grab something, or she doesn't want him getting rabbits in the backyard. You can actually change the dog's reaction to wildlife. I've done this with my own dogs. I have a home in the boondocks, and deer, rabbits, everything, everywhere. And I've used the leave it cue. And also, every time she would see an animal or something that I wanted her to associate with something good for me, I would just praise her and she would look at me. So I had an incident Christmas Day last year. I was walking her in the Arboretum, and one of these city squirrels in Boston, one of these brave city squirrels just hit the sidewalk right in front of us. And my dog is a bulldog pit bull mix. He just jumped right in front of us on the sidewalk and looked up at her. And she looked up at me like, I get a treat for this, right? She didn't even pull on the leash. She was like, whoa, that's close. Give me my cookie. So the things that Pedro needs to be learned can be taught. He needs to stay on a leash. I know you have a leash law in Nantucket, and I exhorted Melanie to follow that leash law. I think he can be a safe dog in the community. What happened is a tragedy. I can't even imagine what it was like to go through that. But I did not find him to be dangerous. I don't think he's a danger to other people or to children. Small furry animals, deer, perhaps he can wear a muzzle then. But his behavior can easily be trained alternatively.
Thank you very much. Does the board have questions? Yeah, Brooke, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bright. What is a typical training regimen to take a dog like Pedro to have reliable recall, reliable leave it? I mean, we have a leash law, so being off leash, while many Islanders don't abide by the leash law, in a situation like this where there've been incidents, I agree that abiding by the leash laws is critical. But I'm just curious what the time commitment or what you expect the commitment to get some reliable training. And then while that app for finding yards to practice might be great in America, do we know whether there's anyone here?
I already looked at the Sniff Spot app, and there are kind of a lot of places in Nantucket that someone can rent.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
How about my question about the commitment to training and like, is there a training plan that we can ask for or something like that? I'm trying to get real concrete.
She has a training plan. I gave it to her. Everything that I recommended is in the behavior plan that I gave her. And training new behaviors takes like 5 to 10 minutes a day and a lifestyle change. So that rather than walking the dog, talking on your phone, talking to someone else, you have the dog under training contingencies in the house. You can teach some behaviors in the house, like leave it, things like that. But then whenever you are with the dog, you're in training mode. Whenever you're out with the dog on the leash, you're on training mode. You're teaching heeling. You're doing your come fronts. You're doing calling the dog to you when the dog is on a long line. It's a lifestyle change, and it's one that Pedro has welcomed. Melanie already let me know that he's playing with her, playing games with her before. A lot of his behavior was kind of shut down because of the e-collar. But he was a great dog to train. He could do everything there in my office. And I just think that by training each behavior 5 times a day in the house, and then while she's on a walk, training the behaviors when she's out and about, and always having the right reinforcers with her to get the behavior that she wants.
Yeah, I think sometimes I trained a puppy years ago, and it was I who got trained.
Oh, certainly. Well, behavior change happens in the environment, right? When the environment changes, behavior changes. So changing the owner's behavior changes the animal's behavior, right?
Yeah. My other question, if you don't mind, Madam Chair, you described the dog having been fitted as a muzzle. Under what conditions do you recommend the use of the muzzle? We hadn't added that, and I'm just curious whether you recommend adding that, and under what circumstances.
Well, the times we recommend a muzzle is if a dog is in danger of doing something untoward with their teeth, right? So if there was a cat show in Nantucket and he was going to walk by where people were bringing their cats into the show, he should be muzzled. If a deer was going to run by when he was on a 10-foot leash, and the times that he has exhibited his predatory behavior have been so specific, right? So if she's just walking down the street and training him in heel position, I do not see him as being in danger. The times that of harming another animal, the times that he did, the way it was described to me, was when he took off and chased something. That whole chase sequence was engaged. And if he's on leash and under her control, then that chase sequence will not be engaged. So the muzzle that I fit him for is called a Baskerville muzzle. And I think every dog should be trained to wear a muzzle. So I fit him for a muzzle just in case. Let's say a neighbor got a cat and she let her cat out all the time, right? And so if there was a risk that when she got out of her door to the end of the block, past the cat's territory, then it would probably be good to muzzle the dog to get out of the cat's territory. If she knew, because people let their cats out loose as well as they do their dogs. So that's an instance that I can think of. If someone else was being irresponsible with their cat, then she would need to protect Pedro from chasing the cat. She's going to have him on a leash. She's going to have a whole new relationship with him. So I think I think that he's going to be all right. And I know I saw in the package that from before that he has a lot of people in the town that he likes and is friendly with. And I see a lot of dangerous dogs in my practice, a lot of dangerous dogs. And I do not see him as being a danger to the community.
Assuming the recommendations are followed.
True.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's encouraging to me. I think if they're followed, I feel fairly confident that he will be fine. I think, you know, it's one of those, we have deer everywhere. You know, like they're yards downtown. I mean, so I think that it's really important that he be on a leash. But other than that, I think, you know, that's sort of my guess is that we're on the right path.
Erica?
Do you want Melanie to give you the plan that Dr. Bright provided her so we have it, on record? So if somebody calls the police, they can verify that that was part of it?
Brooke? I'm going to suggest that we keep the conditions in place and that we ask Melanie to follow through on the training plan that was recommended by Dr. Bright, and that we have her come back and maybe have Dr. Bright evaluate the success of the training in a time period that she recommends, and then we can revisit the dangerous dog, moniker at that time.
Can I mention that we would typically see the dog for a recheck in 4 months' time? So we follow up with her in the meantime, and we would typically see the dog for a recheck in 4 months.
Okay.
So what conditions are you going to keep? Did you say? Brooke?
Erica's going to read it.
It would be what is currently in the temporary order. So you have to have a training plan, which now that you have one, you'll have to follow that. And hold on.
You basically just said leashed at all times, correct?
He must be physically, not electronically, leashed or harnessed, where you can maintain 100% control of him whenever he is outside of your residence.
Okay. My question is he considered a dangerous dog?
He still is, yes.
Yeah, I'm suggesting he is until the training is complete.
I think the doctor just said that he was not, she did not consider him to be.
Madam Chair, I don't think we can take that away. I mean, by a legal definition, he's a dangerous dog, the way I read the law. So, and certainly.
Can I ask you to lean into your mic? I'm having a hard time hearing.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I think by the way the statute reads, he is a dangerous dog because he's killed other animals. And I'd ask the lawyer if I'm correct or not. And I think it's much too early, even from a non-legal perspective, to remove that label.
I'm happy to address that.
Yes, go ahead.
Thanks. I would agree with that comment. You were requested to conduct a hearing on whether you find that this is a dangerous dog or a nuisance dog. And you made the finding last time that under the statute, it's that he was a dangerous dog. And so I think, based on what you've heard from the doctor as well, perhaps finalizing the order regarding on a 3-foot leash, which is also part of the statute. And, if you want to add that the dog continue, or the dog owner rather, continue with the training program, that would be fine. So I do think that term needs to be part of the order. That said, there's nothing to say that you couldn't come back in 4 or 6 months and report on progress with the dog, and maybe the board could revisit that term. I know it's kind of a loaded term, but I think that based on what the information from the last hearing was, I do think the board made a quite defensible decision that, at least at this time, finding it to be a dangerous dog.
Madam Chair.
Oh, yes, Tom.
Yeah, I agree with Erica's comment that it is probably a good idea for the plan that Dr. Bright came up with, working with Ms. Kodalak, to be on file with the town for one specific reason, in that if muzzling the dog at some points, as Dr. Bright put it, if there's a cat in the neighborhood, we don't know the total universe of where other domestic animals may live in the neighborhood, that if that's part of the training plan, and by the kind of parameters that Dr. Bright laid out, were for the purpose of this meeting and just talking about it, fairly vague. But if God forbid there were an incident, I think it would be prudent for the town to have something on file to see what is intended in the training as a worst case scenario. I think the training protocols are great. I thank Dr. Bright for coming and describing this evening to us. And I also agree that the dangerous dog, per the way the statute is written and per Attorney Riley's statements on it, should stay until an appropriate time that the board and Dr. Bright say that Ms. Kodalak and Dr. Bright can come back and report to us for maybe a reassessment.
Brooke? Yeah, so I think we have a duty to the community, and what we want to ensure is that you follow through on the training, and that that Dr. Bright gets to revisit with Pedro and test the training and see how well it's gone. And a commitment to leashing, because I believe there are concerns in the community about that commitment. And so I want to keep this in place to ensure your compliance with that, in addition to the training protocol. And, you know, it's a partnership, human and dog, and both partners have to commit. And so as far as I'm concerned, Pedro's been assessed. He's become but nothing substantive has changed from a legal definition based on what happened with the cat for me to change my mind. But I think you should come back after completing the training protocol, having him reassessed, and then make a request to have us revisit that dangerous dog, having him identified as a dangerous dog. But I feel like we're like 2 weeks out, and I'm not ready to change my mind. I think there's a lot of work to be done between now and then and that moment.
I'm sorry, between 2 weeks out?
No, I said we're just a couple weeks out from the hearing, right?
Which
So
I was told at that hearing that it could be diminished.
no,
Dangerous dog.
I think it was, I think you asked the question. I don't think anyone on this board indicated that that was going to happen. I think council said it could be possible, but I'm saying it's not possible for me today.
Yes, and Madam Chair, I remember distinctly what I said about that. And I actually made almost a snide comment about it. The point is, we can't remove that label at this point. Right. And I don't think anyone at that previous meeting said that.
I do have other training off island with the positive dog training.
Great.
Besides myself. Have you ever met the cat, Brooke? That deceased?
I don't know that that's relevant. What we know is your dog killed a cat, and that is the legal definition in our statute of a dangerous animal. Mm-hmm. We're trying to give you a path to demonstrating that the circumstances under which the death of that cat occurred won't happen again. I think that's the point I'm making, and that is your responsibility between leash, training, muzzle, to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Right.
So,
right. Just
I have one question for you, Dr. Bright.
Yes.
And it's just in regard to whether there should be any stipulations about having to use the muzzle. And it's specific to the nature of us being on an island and travel on the ferry boat, where there's often like many animals together, cats, dogs with their owners. Yeah, would you be concerned? I mean, it can be very congested on whether those circumstances might be something that should be stipulated.
When a dog wears a muzzle is based on when they're at risk to bite. You know, in the times that he was in the predatory mode was chasing something. Something came across his field of vision. He oriented, stalked, went after it. I don't think that that is something that could happen necessarily on the ferry, but teaching a dog to wear a muzzle is easy. And when you do it with hundreds of treats, when I get my muzzle out for my dog, because boy, does she hate the vet. She's had 3 surgeries and she doesn't like the vet. So she wears a muzzle. She throws her nose right in it because she's had hundreds of treats when she was wearing it. So the same thing with Pedro in close quarters on the ferry. Let's say he's coming to Angel for additional training, which we talked about, which could be great. It's no biggie for him to have his muzzle on and eating pieces of string cheese through it. You know, it's the muzzle is owner operated, and the general instructions are it's to keep your dog safe. It's not a punishment. And when you train it the way we recommend it be trained, then it's just a tool, and it's a temporary tool. No dog lives in a muzzle. So I haven't seen him on the ferry, so it's hard for me to say that he should be muzzled on the ferry. It's hard to imagine that he would be in a situation, because he's in the car for one thing.
Oh,
where-
actually, I wasn't talking about the car ferry. We have strictly passenger ferries where
Right,
people
okay.
walk on with their animals.
Yeah, I'm familiar. I just know that she came in the car when she came to see me, so I don't know what her ferry behavior is like, honestly.
I can say that my dog has been on the ferry hundreds of times without incident at all.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
It sounds like a chase. It sounds like he's
prey.
chasing. I had friends who had a dog that it was chased and killed cats, and I'm sure he got other things too, and they couldn't, you know, they couldn't stop him, and eventually he was put down because the neighbor, forced the issue, and so it's, it's to his benefit to be on the leash and not, not get in a situation where someone is charging something and it's nothing, that you can do or we can do. So I think I think that's to Pedro's best interest to be well trained and on a leash all the time. I
Yeah,
think
I'm not
that's,
arguing the leash.
yeah, I really, he sounds like a great dog other than, you know, he's going to chase something if he can. So.
Right.
Dr. Bright,
Yes.
to my question about sort of a reassessment at some point, would you feel comfortable with us requesting that after, a couple of months or you're being able to test the success of the training? Is that something we can expect or ask for? You'd be able to determine how reliable it is?
Sure. And we can also, because we communicate back and forth with our clients all the time. We ask for videos. So certainly we could help her set up training scenarios. And Melanie, I think you said you were going to take us up on having some training at Angel on the Angel grounds with some of our certified trainers. And we could set up some specific things. and take videos to show progress of the things that we're training. Leave it, come front. There's lots of things that we could do and video, and Melanie could take videos too of her dog looking at something in the distance and looking right up at her when she says leave it, and present those as evidence. Those are really good ways to do checkups on training with dogs, because he's a fun dog to train. He likes food.
That's good to hear.
Dawn, can I ask another question? Brian, what would be the best process? We still have a hearing that's open, right? Oh, we did close the hearing. Okay. So we would have to, what would be the process for us to change the designation on the dog? Like, do we have to have another hearing, or could Melanie come back with an update from Dr. Bright and a request to change the status after the completion of the training regimen?
I would say, I mean, this is probably a little atypical, but I would say if, a few months down the road, if this is going to happen after 4 months, for example, I think I would suggest that setting up a new hearing, and then you can, hear the new recent history of the dog, and perhaps whether it would be to rescind the current order or enter a new one. I think we could sort of figure that out depending on the facts at that time. I would say probably a new hearing under this statute.
Okay. Erica, what's the timeline for a new hearing? There's advertising, right?
These aren't public hearings per se.
Okay.
It's more that the dog owner needs to be notified by certified mail. So there needs to be time to do that.
That's correct.
Malcolm?
Although, Madam Chair, if it's a public hearing, it would give opportunity for the public to comment if there's been some complaints.
Yeah. If I might, I'm going to recommend that we leave it up to Melanie to go through the training. And when she and Dr. Bright feel comfortable that there's been a real shift in control, and we have a period of no further incidents, that you're welcome to come back and request a hearing to amend his status. It's a little different from us scheduling it, right? But I think I'd like you to be in charge of the timeline a little bit. So you have time to do the training and then say, hey, we're doing great. Dr. Bright thinks, we're doing great, and we'd like to ask for a change in status.
I would defer to the doctor for that, what she thinks. I'm happy to come back and do that. Time frame?
Oh, well, she had said earlier that she generally recommends a reassessment at 4 months. So I guess that would bring us to September.
It's a long time for my dog to be considered dangerous, I feel. You've heard the doctor say she doesn't feel like he's dangerous at all. What your lawyer just said was something that I heard last meeting, is if we could meet another time and change the label.
But that's exactly what I'm saying, but none of us are ready to do that today. So we're asking you to comply with the conditions, which is to submit the training plan, follow through on the training plan, and get a reassessment. If that can happen sooner than 4 months, I'm saying it's in your control, but we're going to want to hear from Dr. Bright, that I'm going to want to hear that you've had success in recall and leave it, and trainings that she's talked about in various scenarios. That's what I want to see. I want to see a commitment from you and some success in the training for Pedro, and then I'd be happy to consider it at a later date. But it's not going to happen today, and it's not going to happen in like a couple of weeks. So
we went through this with Frank Daly.
Yeah.
He came on and spoke last time. I don't know that we ever changed the designation, but we changed the conditions.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, I may be wrong then.
I
We
mean,
could do this.
Brian Riley is saying we could change the
Yeah.
designation.
Yeah, I don't recall that you've ever changed a designation in the
Right.
past.
Well, I think that'd be very uncomfortable doing that because of the way the statute's read. We could change the conditions. And at that time, I won't be here, but I think it would be important, if there's some concern in the public, that that's also heard.
So I think that the circumstances under which this dog is dangerous are clear: off leash, chasing, etc. So to me, the danger can be significantly reduced or eliminated with appropriate training and a commitment by the owners to have the dog on the leash at all times. I just want some time to show that that's going to happen. Then I would be open to it because the parameters are very limited. So if the owners are willing to commit to never letting those circumstances happen, then the dog is no longer dangerous because it is controlled in a way that makes it not dangerous. It's the control part that I need to see, the training and the control. So I would be open to changing it under those circumstances, but I can't speak to the board that will be sitting here 2, 3, 4 months down the road. It won't be the same 5 of us as of next week, but I'm saying I'd like you to have the opportunity to work with him and eliminate this risk. To me, it's about the risk to the community and making sure that other domestic cats are not at risk.
So I guess what we're heading towards is if we could have just a copy of the report and the training suggestions, so it's on record.
I sent it to Erica
To leave.
You did?
Yeah.
When?
today.
Oh yeah, it wasn't.
It must have been right before the meeting. I didn't see anything.
So, and then, I mean, I'm starting to just lay out what a motion will look like, and that the being leashed and under and following a training plan, and then you can come back to us if you want something changed. I mean, and
I'll make that as a motion.
oh, there's just one more thing
Yeah,
I
sure.
wanted to note, because I mean, this is the third time we've been through this, and obviously we just have to think through all of the things that can come up. One of the issues that was the second occurrence with another dog, was when the dog stayed with a dog sitter and got loose.
I'm sorry, what happened?
It
with
was when
another
the
dog?
when the dog was left with a dog sitter and accidentally got
It was
loose.
following the protocols.
And really, I mean, it was no, I'm just saying this is what's happened to us before having to be this panel on it. It was very bad. The what occurred. So I'm just saying that so that's in your mind, that just about having it under control. And I think it's really going to be about the training to get to a point where leave it and staying on leash and healing is like, just second nature.
So when I'm
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
I can definitely make recommendations to Melanie for if there's times that she can't take care of him, of safe places that he can be kenneled.
Okay.
The whole dog sitter thing is rife with trouble. You can find one on the internet that is not qualified to take care of your goldfish. And so to have any dog professionally cared for that's a really good point, and I can guide Melanie in that direction.
Great. Erica?
what I'm hearing is that that I can come back in a matter that's more than 2 weeks with some significant results to get the label changed from dangerous.
It
Is
would
that
be
what I'm
way
hearing?
more than 2 weeks. The 2 weeks
Madam
is not the time frame. It's when your dog gets reassessed by Dr. Bright, which she said was in 4 months.
We could reassess before 4 months. I heard whenever there seems to be a behavior.
Madam Chair.
Tom?
Yeah, I'd like to suggest and possibly through you make to Matt for if he has made that motion, a possible friendly amendment to say 4 months from this hearing today, Ms. Kolak is welcome to come back with Dr. Bright to reassess everything we've spoken about here.
I'll accept that.
So 4 months it is, yeah.
Okay, so can I just clarify one thing?
Yes.
So the motion is to get a copy of the report and training protocol that Dr. Bright sent to Ms. Kodalak. From the temporary order, Pedro will still must be physically, not electronically leashed or harnessed, where 100% control of him is had whenever he's outside his residence. That stays. And then 4 months from today's hearing, Ms. Kodalak can come back and request another hearing following reassessment. And that will be your final order. Right? I'm going to turn this,
that
I'm
will
going to
be
turn
by,
this into
by
an order.
request. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, this motion is, I'm going to turn this into an official order.
Yes.
Okay.
So no sooner than 4 months, I think
Yes.
is what Tom was suggesting. Is that what you heard?
That's what I took from it.
And I'm sorry, Tom seconded? Or who
I will
seconded?
second.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so motion made by Matt, seconded by Tom. Anything further on the motion? Okay, all those in favor by roll call, Matt Fee,
Aye.
Malcolm McNow,
Aye.
Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Don Hill, aye. That carries unanimously 5-0.
Madam Chair, I'll be in
Okay.
touch with Eric about getting the final order out then.
Okay. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Public Works Transportation request for designation of no parking on either side of Lovers Lane, Arkawar Avenue, and Monahanset Road.
Hi, Drew Patno, Director of Public Works. So yeah, we're Erica, can you pull up the map just for everybody's benefit? Although I'm sure you're all very familiar with the area.
It's pretty, but it's not Orqua.
Beautiful. Thank you. So we're looking to officially designate Lovers Lane from Nancy Ann to the Boulevard, Orkawa Ave from Lovers to Monahanset, which is the public portion, and Monahanset Road from Orkawa to and including Airport Road up to the intersection of Miller Lane as no parking both sides. In short, this is in keeping with our policy on other roads with bike path. Excuse me. Bike paths such as the Boulevard, Surfside, and some other areas. And the intent is to protect the new infrastructure that's currently being installed essentially as we speak. So the drainage infrastructure, the bike paths, and the roadways that are, but also the final landscaping. And I would argue, more importantly, to maximize public safety throughout these corridors, which is ultimately the main goal of the $20 million project that's currently underway. Just for your reference, the parcels on Lovers Lane from Nancy Ann to Rugged Road are R20 zoning. All of the rest of the properties on Lovers Lane, Orkawa, and Monahanset are Lug 1, Lug 2, or Lug 3, with the exception of 3 parcels between Evergreen and Miller Lane, which are commercial neighborhood, the CN zoning, but certainly have ample parking. So all the lots are plenty big enough to accommodate on-site parking, and nearly all, if not all, already have driveways with parking and turnaround areas for safe access to and from these lots. Additionally, just I'll add, as part of the project that's ongoing, the parking lot for the disc golf course in the state forest is also being enlarged. We're in the process of reconstructing that to provide more parking. And so with that, I'll ask the select board to approve our request, and if so, we'll get signage installed ASAP.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, made by Brooke, seconded by Matt. All those in favor by roll call. Matt Fee?
Aye.
Malcolm McNown?
Aye.
Tom Dixon?
Aye.
Brooke Moore?
Aye.
Don Hill, aye. That carries unanimously 5-0. Thank you.
And we did, when we talked about the design on this, that one of our concerns, or one of my concerns, all of our concerns was, a straight speedway like this it's gonna be a drag race. And so, it's sort of why the disc golf, I said, geez, can we put some on-street parking along the disc golf or do something, And so I know you've got some plans that you're working on for that, but it's gonna be, it's a tempting, we have created ourselves a tempting situation. Let's put it that way.
Sure, I'll actually add to that. So yeah, Lovers Lane was paved recently from Nancy Ann down just short of Orkawa. We almost immediately put in a semi-permanent traffic data collection device. We borrowed from the police department. We have about a dozen on island that are permanently stationed. They have one that they utilize to respond to complaints and requests of residents. So that's installed right now and tracking speed data. Additionally, we have raised intersections proposed at, or they're going to be installed at the intersection of Orkawa and Lovers, and another at the intersection of Rugged and Lovers. And then additionally, in front of 14 Lovers, there will be a median island that causes, horizontal deflection. And we think that that's a good balance. We actually also moved some drainage structures at the intersection with Dave Kim, so that, basically as a provision. So if we want to add another raised intersection with Dave Kim, which we obviously expect will get more heavily used now that it's not underwater. So it allows us to kind of adjust. But based on the speed data we're seeing so far, it's certainly not out of control. Again, without the traffic calming even being installed to date. So that's reassuring.
That's a good sign then. The
Yeah.
numbers we had even across the street here were incredible. So
Yeah, I think the 85th,
it was a cut through for the cabs peak summer.
Yeah, I think the 85th percentile so far from what we've seen is about 34, 35 miles per hour, which is a little high. But again, we haven't done any of the traffic calming on Lovers yet.
I'll make a correction. It wasn't the cabs. It was some of the other, the Uber types were the ones that were doing it. But anyway, I know my cousins are going to call and yell at me. So I had to correct that.
Brooke?
I just made an interesting observation this week. I was texting Drew earlier in the week. They put down all the lovely loam on the side of Surfside Road, and it is completely flattened by tire marks within a week. Who is driving off the pavement onto the dirt? I mean, I'm shocked. I was shocked, really, within a day. And then they started appearing, and then it's like almost completely flattened by tire marks. Just surprised me. It was just made it really evident how often people veer off the road. A lot of distracted drivers out there, I guess. And the other thing I'm going to say while I'm on my soapbox is the propensity for people to use bike paths as parking lots has started again this spring. Chief Casper, please, Bartlett Road is bad. I'm about to get out my e-bike and I really don't want to have to go out in the street to go around a parked car on the bike path. So reminding the community, the medians between the bike path and the road are not parking lots, and the bike paths themselves are certainly not parking lots. So please, please stop, because we're encouraging people to ride bikes, and I want them to be safe. So there, I will step off my soapbox now.
Can I just add that we actually had this very same discussion today during a project meeting, and on South Shore Road we encountered the same thing, and we have redone the loaming and seeding there a couple of times, and we've gone so far now as to installing stakes. People still do it.
Burton Ballkind? Or Oh, he put his hand down. David?
David Gray, Sewer Director. FedEx, UPS, and all the other delivery trucks. I saw 4 delivery trucks yesterday alone on Surfside Road, pulling off the road and everything else. I had to yell at a landscaper today on South Shore Road that drove between the stakes and was parked on the grass. I don't understand why they do it, but they do. We noticed it really heavy up here at Surfside and Fairgrounds. We think it's got to do with some of the bigger trucks making the turn and cars maybe trying to get out of their way. But there are a lot of areas that it's the delivery trucks, and I don't know how to stop them. So it's very frustrating.
We legally can control the weights and the size of the vehicles. And so, and I don't, what's that? No, well, I understand that people will not like that, but that's, when you look at when you look at the cars 25, 30 years ago, a Volkswagen Bug was, 3 feet shorter, 2 feet, thinner. The smallest Toyota, the smallest Ford that were driven all around and did all the work here on the island fit the island. They don't fit anymore, and they're getting bigger and bigger, and our island isn't able to accommodate them. So we, and us putting our heads in the sand and acting as though there's nothing we can do isn't going to solve it. If we let cars park on sidewalks and park on bike paths and drive on medians because, oh, they're working or whatever, then that's what we're going to get. And I think, this, anyway, I'm going to stop because I say this all the time, but it's a serious issue. And it's, and I had a bunch of kids seriously injured last year, partly because they're on bikes and whatever, and it's mayhem. So, a bunch of my employees were very seriously injured, flown off island. So this is not, anyway, something that we should just like sort of go, well, nothing we can do.
And Madam Chair, I have one comment on this subject. I was going to mention this when I got to the African Meeting House report, but the investigator visited the meeting house this morning. He came in last night and walked around the town. And when I picked him up in the morning, he said, Malcolm, why do you let all these cars and trucks park on the sidewalks? He said he's never seen like it in his life. And he's been all over the country doing these things. So it's a problem. I thought of you immediately when he said that.
It's the Nantucket way.
Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I was just going to add, not to pile on, but yeah, we do see it a lot. It's landscapers and especially homes that are under construction. So right now across from Crooked Road, Crooked Lane on Nantucket Road, there's an area that the grass is just no longer, right? And it makes it really difficult for us to maintain the road shoulder. So I've spoken with a couple folks that are involved with the Builders Association, and I plan on going there to try to, see what we can do to rectify the situation. So something we're certainly keenly aware of and we'll continue to work on. But this is a start in these areas, to designate it as no parking, and there's at least some enforceability. So
Thank you. Burton Balkine does have his hand back up. If there's a quick comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Brooke, I just wanted to say, with the increased density we're seeing in the Mid-Island, as a former landscape contractor, I wouldn't know where to park my vehicle with my trailer if I had to mow a lawn that has 3 houses on it now where there was one. So I just think you have to, put that into the equation as we increase density. We have to keep places for the contractors to be able to do service on them. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission requests for a letter of support for Safe Street and Roads for AI grant application.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mike Burns with the.
Oh, hi, Mike.
Hi there. Mike Burns, Transportation Program Manager with the NPDDC. This grant application is to implement a couple of the recommendations of the Traffic Safety Action Plan that was prepared by Kilson and Associates and approved in September 2025 by the MPDC. That was after coordination with the Select Board and with traffic safety staff. Kilson and Associates is preparing a grant application on behalf of the MPDC and staff, and they're funded by the Barr Foundation. And Mass DOT is providing the 20% match for this federal grant opportunity to implement two projects. One is rumble strips along a portion of Bartlett Road on the approach to Raceway Drive, where we've had some history of serious crashes. The other project is speed reduction pavement markings, and there's a diagram in your packet showing what that actually means. These are along curbs along Nantucket Road and Sankaty Road, where we've had some history of serious crashes with lane departures. So the rumble strip project will help us test the rumble strip as a before the roadway improvements along Bartlett Road and Raceway Drive are implemented in the future, to see if we actually think they're actually functioning well or not. I should note that these are demonstration projects, meaning that data would be collected before and during the application of these projects to measure their success, and funding has been included to remove them if they are found to be not desirable. So, Madam Chair, there is a letter of support that town administrations help edit that would help support the application to the U.S. Department of Transportation, and staff requests that you authorize the chair to sign this letter of support, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the projects.
Thank you. I think Matt already started to make a motion.
I did.
And I'd
Yes.
just add that you authorize me to sign the letter.
Yes, you may.
And I'll second that.
Okay, made by Matt, seconded by Brooke. All those in favor by roll call. Matt Fee,
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb,
Aye.
Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Don Hill, aye. That carries unanimously 5-0.
And thank you to the Barr Foundation.
Thanks, Mike. Next up, it's the town manager's report. Libby, do you want to do that?
Sure, I'll just introduce this item. Chuck, I think, is down there in the audience along with a couple of other staff people. They have been working very hard on a new ish project asset management system called Cartograph. It's a computerized, as it says on the agenda, maintenance management system, CMMS. Chuck and I were talking about it recently, and really they've come quite a long way in getting our assets into this system. And I just thought it might be a good idea to show the board and the public what is happening on our end to take good care of the assets that the taxpayers fund for us. So Chuck and I think sewer staff is going to show something on screen.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Chuck Larson, Manager of Strategic Projects. I got the clicker. Yeah. As introduced, this presentation is an update on the Enterprise Asset Management System, which goes by the abbreviation of EAM, or Asset Management, and it's also referred to as Cartograph. OpenGov purchased Cartograph. That's the underlying software for the asset management side of things. So we do refer to it because of where it originated from. As I begin, I would like to recognize project team members in the room tonight. We have David Gray and Laura Cabati and Charles Johnson from the sewer department. We also have consultants that have been supporting us several years putting this together, in Jamie McDonald and Cindy Chu. They were on island today to help set us up field data collection devices, training, but also we went out and met with Drew Patnode at DPW to talk about scoping phase 2 and what some of his needs might be. The asset management system is software and data to improve the way the town tracks, maintains, and plans activities for our high value and critical infrastructure. The goal is to keep infrastructure in good condition at the lowest long-term cost. Phase 1 of this project focused on sewer, stormwater, and drinking water infrastructure. I have 3 slides of project information that will be followed by a live demonstration of the software by staff in the sewer department. This project was initiated by the sewer department and was supported by a core team of individuals from sewer and water departments. The engineers and technical staff from Hazen provided guidance with system selection, configuration, and implementation. One of the main drivers of the asset management system was the CMOM program. CMOM is the inspection and project planning work initiated by the sewer department in 2017 for compliance with the Clean Water Act and to eliminate sanitary sewer overflows. The town and Hazen developed a requirements document for an asset management system, which included research that identified best practices. About a dozen software programs were reviewed in this process to get a better understanding of what's available from vendors in the marketplace. This review process concluded that OpenGov met our requirements. Phase 1 of this project went live in March of 2026, and this project was started in 2024 with OpenGov. Phase 1 is supported by a $150,000 state grant, which helped to fund this initial effort and offset implementation costs. Matching funds from the town were $350,000 for a total project budget of $500,000. Our initial focus with the EAM has been configuring the maintenance management components, getting the day-to-day operational backbone of the system in place. This slide provides an important distinction. Traditional maintenance management systems focus on entering work activities or work tasks, scheduling tasks, tracking tasks, doing work, closing tasks, and essentially managing day-to-day operations. Asset management includes all that, but goes further. The software adds the ability to analyze activities and assets across their full life cycle, from installation to replacement. It provides the tools to assess asset conditions, remaining life, evaluate the risk of failure, and prioritize investments based on data. In the past, you've probably heard about us talk about this project using titles of asset management and maintenance management. These are terms that we use interchangeably. We are implementing both capabilities with this software system. We have started the configuration and capability for maintenance management, and that functionality is shown on this slide in the column for the maintenance management and the green check marks. With the continuation of our work in phase 2, we will configure the rest of the analytical tools to support asset management analysis. A critical component for the immediate and long-term success of this project was establishing and building a strong foundation for data management. With the assistance of Hazen, we developed a structured data model, system architecture to ensure consistency across all asset information, and then full use of the data that we collected from the CMOM program. As part of this process, we eliminated duplicate data, developed standards, standardized data formats, assembled a data dictionary, and implemented procedures for data collection, quality assurance, and quality control. We also upgraded the town's GIS to Esri Enterprise and ArcGIS Online. This was needed for better integration and accessibility of information. The GIS serves as our authoritative source for our asset inventory and now is directly integrated into the asset management system. The result is a scalable and reliable data environment that supports both current operations and future expansion. We're going to pivot here and go to the point of show the live demonstration. We want to show you the system in action, and it's going to be provided by the users that actually use the system. No screenshots, This is, kind of like television, live television. We're going to show you how it works. A special shout out is really needed to recognize 3 employees in the sewer department that have made extraordinary contributions to the success of this deployment. These are Laura Cabati, Kathy Bedard, and Christine Herman. They are true champions of Phase 1 and go-getters responsible for a successful launch. Thank you to all 3. And with their help, we have organized tonight's demonstration, and it's from their office in the sewer department. I'd like to introduce Kathy Bedard, who is going to share her screen and continue with the presentation. And Kathy, you could also introduce if you have other folks supporting you tonight. Are we missing the audio?
Hi, can you guys hear me? Okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you, Chuck, for that wonderful introduction. Yes, Christine is here in the office with me, and I also have Osaji Doyle, who will be speaking as a field user shortly. What you guys are seeing on the screen now is the forms that we currently use in our office that were created by our amazing office manager, Laura. We use these forms to help document every phone call that comes in, every patron that walks in, any radio transmission from our sewer operators out in the field. And this is important not only for record keeping, but also internal reference if we ever need it. On average, I can have anywhere from 5 to 20 or more of these filled out in a single day, which then need to be post-processed and then scanned and e-filed or attached to our previous work order system. One of the key benefits of OpenGov is we've been able to eliminate close to 80% of this paper documents, and we can utilize that time in other ways. So I'm going to get into OpenGov now. So what you're seeing on the screen here is the map for OpenGov. So shout out to Nathan, the GIS coordinator, and the Hazen team for really getting this map up and going for us, because it's amazing being able to see our assets and also the requests, the tasks, the work orders that we make. Let's see. So I was brought into the discussion for OpenGov back in October of 2024, and alongside Hazen and the team here in the office, Laura, Christine, David, Charles, the crew, they Hazen really helped develop this asset management software and build it to fit the needs of our department. So shout out to Jamie, Cindy, Devin, Anthony, and the whole OpenGov team. So we went live this past March, and it's used every day by the office staff and the crew members. And you can see on the bottom here, this shows how many tasks. We have 9,662 tasks just from March to present day, 141 requests. We're able to see all of our assets and the work orders. And then I'm going to get into our layers. I'm kind of going to narrow it down to show you. So I'm going to start by going over requests. So requests are their phone calls from patrons, their requests from contractors for markouts, sewer backups, facility tours, which is a good example to kind of show you. So this one is actually from the Boys and Girls Club to do a tour of our facility with their STEAM program. So thank you to them for their initiatives with the children of the community. We're able to log in the request. So this is an example of getting rid of those paper documents. We're able to enter it directly onto the system. And then from there, we can see the task that's associated with this request, which is the facility tour. And then I can kind of get into tasks here. So the tasks are action items. So think going to check manholes, performing a markout, hydro excavation, meeting on sites, repairs. This is what our crew are out there in the field doing. So we're able to kind of keep track of all of that. And I have a really nice example that I want to share with you all. Is this one right here, Pleasant Street. If many of you have noticed, there's a catch basin that was repaired on Pleasant Street by Geronimo's. And so this is a really good example of just the whole process of keeping this all together and organized. So we have this set up as a work order. So I'm able to click in here and I can see that I can see the description, what the description on this is the catch basin sinking. So it's going to be repaired by a town contractor. And then I'm able to see all of the tasks that are associated with this work order. And what's really nice is there's attachments. So we have all of this in one place to reference. So just little preview of the repaired catch basin, which is very nice. Um, so I wanted to pass this off to Osaji Doyle so he can talk about field work. You get
Good afternoon, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and members of the community. I'm Osaji Doyle, Assistant Chief of Nantucket Sewer Department, and since implementing OpenGov, our team has seen improvement in how we plan projects, assign work, and track the progress of those projects. OpenGov has made the project management more efficient by organizing work seamlessly. We're able to delegate tasks efficiently and provide visibility into completing the completed and ongoing projects. One of the most valuable features has been the layers and the visual tracking system, which helps us monitor the progress on projects such as our spring and fall cleaning, routine cleanings that we do. It is also, OpenGov has also strengthened our record keeping by organizing and accessibility and the easy document and retrieval of those information. The quick access to accurate records has improved operational responses and oversight in the field. Overall, the benefit of OpenGov within our department has improved our efficiency, better communication, and stronger operational oversight. That's all I have. So I'm going to pass it to Christine. Thank you.
Thank you, Osaji and Kathy. Oh, sorry. Okay. I am going to share my screen in a moment. So I'm the office administrator, another one. And my primary focus is sewer permits. So if you've ever had to get a sewer permit, you probably have had to deal with me. So I started back here in 2018, and out of pure necessity, I had to make spreadsheets. So that's definitely a static, not a live thing. And let me tell you, I'm excited to finally get rid of those spreadsheets. very soon. This program is just incredible. So this is what my login looks like. And I have a lot of sewer permit things that we worked on with Hazen, developing a way to track everything. So everything from, oh, sorry. I am terrible at this. I thought I was sharing.
Yeah, we see it. Great.
Oh,
Kristen.
perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it. So we developed essentially we adapted my spreadsheet to work with the system, and it has a lot of potential for future integration. For example, if the town ends up going to OpenGov for permitting, but we have everything in here. So you can see I've already have like almost 300 sewer permit tasks in less than 3 months. So this is all brand new since early March. So it's pretty fantastic. Kathy did walk you guys through what the power of the work orders are, and specifically for sewer permits, it essentially encompasses the whole life of the permit. So the permit gets issued. We're going to go to this one for an example. So this permit was issued, you know, in the past couple months. We have inspection photos already, so it is absolutely fantastic. As Kathy showed, we and mentioned, we have a lot of paperwork that is now eliminated with this program. So I used to work in the food service industry a long time ago, and the only way I thought I could manage my paperwork here at first was like one of those tickets, things that you like stick, food tickets up in, and my desk got kind of messy. So this, like literally in 2 months, has cleaned my desk. So it is fantastic. Every day I'm finding a new way the system can work for us, and really looking forward to the next phase of this project. Um, so definitely we're going to be looking at invoicing, reporting, which is definitely going to help me out for, record keeping and archiving, inspection reports. Another big thing is going to be inventory. That's going to be huge for our guys. But we are getting there. So phase one has been amazing. And we're really looking forward to working with the Hazen team and everybody who's been on this. Definitely huge shout out to what everybody's done up to this point, and we look forward to the next steps. So I will let Chuck take back over. Thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you. Kathy, Osagie, and Christine, great job. We wanted to show, just some of the capabilities in the system, but something that wasn't static slides, but something that people are actually touching and using it every day. And I believe David wanted to show how they're using it in the field.
And David Gray and Osagie did touch on it, but all the crew have iPads with them when they go out on a call, and especially at 10 o'clock at night when we get a reported backup or something, the guys can log right into the map, click on that sewer pipe, and see the diameter, the age of the pipe, if it's had any past history. So that the tool's live all the time with the guys as they're out in the field. I just wanted to mention that. I mean, Osagie touched on it, but they all have iPads or their phones that are live all the time.
No, I think that's a good point.
Matt?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions. Is it, like, I saw this, like, it says priority, like, and who sets the priority? Is this set by the system, or is this set by the office, or set by the guys in the field?
It's set by the office.
Okay.
It goes through a workflow, and through the workflow, the priority could be assigned. And again, it depends on the task. It depends on the workflow.
Right. And now that you have it on GIS, now that you've got that, now can you look and say, okay, we're doing this area today and we're doing this task, so you can set a route and say, here's what we're doing, and make it more efficient? Is that one of the goals of this?
That's one of the capabilities. Yeah,
Yeah.
is routing, having your tasks, and then working to how do you best carry out that work during the day.
Yeah. And
So-
then when they send it in, is some of this automatic? Like when it's completed, they send a picture. Does it automatically do it, or does someone have to push a button and it's done?
Well, the crew needs to, use the device in the field,
Yeah.
take the photographs, attach them, and then boom, save, and then it just goes right in.
Yeah.
And it's all live. So as soon as they do it in the field, Christine or Kathy in the office, they'll see it.
So they do in the field and they check it off and it's done
Yep.
and they're on to the
Yep.
next one.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
that's
and
good.
so this connects over cellular, it connects over Wi-Fi, and of course, over the wired network for the office.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I do have a few more slides.
Okay.
But I'm hoping, when you saw it on the computer screen, if you were watching it remotely, it looked better. Here, it was difficult to see some of the things, but the user interface is very clear, very intuitive. I seem to be stuck. Great, thank you. So just a couple of more slides to wrap up. The work shown to be done in phase 2 is shown on this slide. The top 4 bullets are needed to really configure and expand on the asset management functionality. We talked about tasks with the demonstration, but we actually want to start to record the labor, equipment, materials that are used for each of the activities. And that'll help us better understand operational costs. Developing the tools to perform asset monitoring, risk modeling, and life cycle analysis to support more thorough asset management analysis. And of course, a system like this, lives on data. So there's a need for additional data collection for stormwater and sewer, the inspections, the CCTV done both in-house and with consultants to keep the condition data up to date. And the goal is to assemble the tools and information to help prepare asset management plans. The system will be expanded to other departments. And as we mentioned, we met with Drew today, and we're working with him to prioritize and sequence his work to work alongside the work that we'd be doing with the sewer and water departments. And one of the items for the water department that they've been asking for is the ability to track parts and inventory management so that they have that information about what they have in stock, and then they can use it in the field and use equipment or use the products and know what their inventory is real time. And another example is that the system is a resource and tool for other town projects, and it's going to be used to support the Stormwater Master Plan project, which we're just starting and kicking off. This slide highlights some of the value drivers, improved decision-making, enhanced system reliability to help find problems before they become bigger problems or catastrophic failures, greater financial sustainability, being positioned for competitive funding opportunities by demonstrating that we're actually monitoring and tracking and prudently managing our infrastructure. And there's also regulatory compliance piece that the EPA is talking about, so we'd be better positioned for that. I shook the button and it jumped ahead. Yeah, I'm close to going to that. And we have talked about asset management plans, but one thing I will mention is that the Federal Highway Administration requires that all states, DOTs, actually have an asset management plan for some of the roadway network that they manage. So asset management seems to be the direction of the future in terms of improving how we take care of and fund our infrastructure. So last slide here. Just these are some of the takeaways, highlights from tonight's presentation. I know this is getting late, but thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on this project. And again, thank you to the project team, for phase 1 and the demo tonight. It went incredibly well. And so at this point, I will be happy to answer any questions, or the team can, jump in and answer as well.
Are there any other questions? It was a great presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have select board reports and comments. We have a discussion regarding traffic safety staff work group policy on removal of public parking spaces for new private driveway curb cuts. This was continued from December 3rd and April 15th. I know we wanted to, revisit it sort of being a given that if you could provide 2 off-street spaces, you could eliminate an on-street space. Maybe we wanted to give some guidance about what other parameters we might want to be looking at. Brooke?
I mean, I brought this up because my concern is, while adding parking spaces, the 2 and taking away 1 at a time, like, had value, right? But with, homeowners having multiple cars, and I'm not sure that it's taking a car off the street necessarily, and it's certainly taking away a publicly accessible parking spot to the neighbors who rely on it for guests or, other reasons. So we've done it sort of automatically, and I think I'm less inclined to do it on sort of that automatic basis. And I think that there should be a compelling, more compelling public benefit than just the addition of another private spot in exchange for a public one. And I don't know whether that's just how we review them, how we ask traffic safety to present them to us in a way that provides more compelling reasons for it than just simply they want to do it. And I think that there probably are circumstances where it's advantageous to the community, but I worry there, we're trying to do parking, making public safety access, improve it, but we have a serious parking shortage, and the community is not ready to give up their cars. And so we have tough decisions to make around that. So I'm not sure we really need to amend the policy, but maybe just tighten it as to when we grant them.
Yeah, I was thinking a little bit in terms of somewhat loosening it in the definition, in the making it more subjective.
Yeah.
That we could not just be analyzing, okay, if they can fit into off-street parking spaces, then it's a given. More of what's the availability of parking within the neighborhood, in total. How wide is the street? Does this become, when cars are backing out, are we going to have a later request to eliminate a spot across the street?
Right.
The sort of the layout of it, is it tandem parking so that it's a small driveway going in, or is it a double wide space? And I mean, I think that we should be able to look at a little bit more, or have traffic safety look at a little bit more. I don't know exactly what all the parameters are, but I've been listening to Matt for 11 years now.
Have we been together that
Say
long?
that
Oh.
every yard is turning into a parking lot. So I mean, I don't know if there can be some design, aesthetic piece to it.
I have a question about downtown parking permits. Like, it would seem to me that in these situations, maybe those homeowners are no longer eligible to get a street parking permit because we've given them 2 on-site. So my worry is, you give people 2 on-site parking spots. And then they just add a third car and they're consuming more parking. We've eliminated a spot and then they may be taking up 3 for their 2. So is it possible to, when we grant them, that property is not eligible for an on-street parking permit because they're agreeing to take their cars off the street in exchange for a spot reduction, like just having it be more equitable in some way to the neighborhood. I don't know. Erica's got a spot.
Madam Chair, yes, I think you're going in the right direction. It's very complicated. I mean, you get 2 off-street parking, so one of my cars will be an unlicensed rental car. Or I don't think you're going to get less cars on the island by doing this. You actually end up making more.
For fewer spots. Public spots.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those almost impossible things to correct. It has to do just the growth of the island, and overpopulation and over cars, and you can't be too rigid.
We can control to some degree. So
just a quick question, if I may. So does this mean that somebody's then going to, like, let's just say, I don't think that your idea is a bad idea. I definitely see people who have off-street parking and parking permits who actually then park their cars out in the street so their guests can stay and park in their driveways. I see that quite often. But does that mean then that somebody's going to have to inventory every parcel within the residential parking district to see who has parking and who doesn't, and who's eligible for a parking pass then and who isn't? Because that would require I don't know if Jody's still here, I think a rewriting of the traffic regulations.
I'm just spitballing here. Yeah.
Drew.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I do like that idea. It is certainly not going to be easy to implement or get to that point, but I think you're onto something. And I was just going to add, for the sake of conversation, obviously, I think you're all well aware, like, if traffic safety work group gets a request to remove an on-street space and it's not a net gain, then it's not even entertained, right? And then never gets brought in front of the board. But I do agree that I think if we're talking about a dead end quiet street or a more arterial roadway, they do need to be looked at in different contexts as far as like the public benefit and emergency, like public safety, for example. I will say another thing, and I know this actually might be pretty unpopular, but something that Mike Burns and I talk about frequently or every now and then is, the select board's strategic plan, transportation focus area, talks about getting a shift in the mode of transportation out of driving alone. And I think we as a community have done a lot to incentivize fare-free NRTA transit. We're working on constantly improving public facilities to facilitate walking and biking. I think one thing we haven't talked about a ton is the disincentivizing. And so there can be, I would argue, can be some good by having even more limited availability of parking. Maybe it does make people think twice. I know I'm one. I'm fortunate because I live on Hooper Farm, so I have to walk 100 feet to get on the bus. It's real easy for me, but I've started using it a lot more to go downtown because I don't feel like driving in circles looking for parking. So like I said, it might be unpopular, but I think it's worth, discussing, or just being part of the discussion. So thank you.
I mean, if we were to go with that idea, it would be issuing a new approval for a new driveway.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, we would have those people sign off their right to on-street parking. I mean, I'm just saying these would all be new, so it would be part of their process. It wouldn't be having to go back and research if they have parking.
Well, it wouldn't be fair to the new people, if they have a policy that's for them and doesn't apply to anybody else in the residential parking district. I just think it's about equity.
True.
But circumstances change over time, right? Things can't be static, right? So I think if we've hit critical mass on these things, then we're applying a rule to the future, right? Not yeah, we did it for a while and it was fine, and well, in some people's opinion, fine. But I don't actually have a problem with it being only applied forward thinking. Rules change all the time. And there there's only so many parking spots we can eliminate on the street. Anyway.
Go ahead, Amy.
Sorry, Amy Eldridge. I just had a quick question. Like, if you're able to park two vehicles in your driveway, say on Orange Street, as you get like closer to the Union Street stop sign, like, would that should make you ineligible to have an off-street parking? So I think if you have spaces where two cars can park, then there's no need for you to have a third, like to get a permit to park on the street. Like, so maybe when you're applying for your thing, you can look on the GIS and see that you have a driveway that can fit two cars. Because I've seen people who have parking permits for Orange Street that live on Orange Street that has 3 parking spaces in their driveway, yet a truck sits on Orange Street all the time and like hardly ever moves. So is there a way to look at people's driveways through the GIS? And if you can get 2 cars in there, then the rule applies to everybody. Then you don't have to worry about somebody being offended that they were a legacy parker or they're going to have to follow the new rule. Thank you.
Mike has his hand up.
Yeah, I see him. Mike Burns.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if that process can be as hard as what we were kind of envisioning it being. I think at the time, I mean, those permits are issued annually. So I think just a simple policy change, and it probably would take a modification to the parking regulations. Those with a driveway are ineligible for that. But at the application process, when you submit it, police, like that would be the step where you would double check that. I don't think there needs to be this exhaustive study by staff to see who has a driveway and who doesn't. I think that can be done, that determination can be done at the time of application and done annually. I don't think you want a stale report to exist out in the ether the way you say, oh, well, the report from 2027 says that you don't have a driveway, but you happen to put one in the meantime and nobody caught it. So that's something that can be built in the application process. I will say that the scenario you were talking about with guest parking, I think there still is like a net gain of parking versus the existing condition or before the driveway was implemented. You're still taking some cars off the road and adding capacity that way. So I don't know if I see it the same way, but it is an interesting concept. I know it's been discussed in the past about those with driveways should lose some rights to park all day long in the street. And that might actually free up some parking turnover for the public. I don't know what timeline you're thinking about, whether we have other pending applications and whether you want to do a parking regulation change for this summer. I'd almost pause and just see, because we are going to have a stressed parking supply this summer. Maybe revisit this at some point in the middle of the summer or after summer to see and evaluate, like, how critical is it to pursue that? But I do see some value in it. I don't mind that idea of being ineligible for an on-street parking permit to park all day long and take away the rights of other users that need to park in the area. And one last thing, they do go through the HTC for determination of appropriateness. I don't know if this is a broader conversation to have that group maybe say, is it appropriate in this area or not? Just from anything outside of like public safety related and doing parking maneuvers in and out of the driveway. If there's this subjective appropriateness, maybe that's where that decision lives, is you have a recommendation from the HTC of approving the driveway in the first place in the hardscaping plan, not just the hardscape, but the context in which that driveway exists. Maybe that's a broader conversation that needs to be had. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Victoria Ewing.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I really appreciate everyone's input and the suggestions that have been made. I happen to be an application that's in the middle right now. I tried to do all of my due diligence prior to my application, We have been granted HGC approval at 13 Westchester. We have been granted a curb cut. Erica and I have been in regular communication about the conversation with you all. I do agree with what's been suggested. My family is, ironically, a former in-town recipient of getting those permits to be able to park all day, as Mike just described. And I completely agree that if we're giving you the driveways, that would be a nice compromise to create space for everyone else that needs it. I'm just concerned at the moment about being in the flux, like in the middle of the decision and how we proceed with the HDC approved and curb cut approved contingent on Board of Selectmen, or sorry, excuse me, Select Board approval of removing this spot. I do think I do think it needs to be revisited. That has been suggested this evening, and I'm all for, as I mentioned, maybe limiting the on-street permit once you arrive at that. I've been doing permitting for about 24 years here, and am open to your conversation. Just wanted to point out that we're kind of in the middle right now and wondering what that means for our future.
Matt?
I have a question, Mrs. Ewing. I have a question about, when you were looking at putting the spaces in on Westchester, did you consider coming in from the lane just to the left of your property and having pull in there with two spaces, which
I
would have
very
not?
much appreciate that comment, Matt. Thank you. We did. We exercised every single conversation. The property owner at 15 is actually a close friend and a client as well. And he already has one to the left that was originally his family's property in the beginning that they subdivided and sold, that has a come off, or for lack of a better word, off that paved hill. The catalpa tree is a huge component of this situation, which is I'm not sure if it's a town tree or not, but I'm going to assume over 100 years old. And so the family at 11 Westchester that ended up creating this lot at 13 was longtime owners and neighbors of the situation. And it was never really needed until they subdivided. And then now we're in a position where we want to protect the tree. 15 already has that subdivision and pull off, and 13 seemed like a natural entity to create the HDC approved two space parking area that we're approved for. And furthermore, I just wanted to clarify a little bit because I read the minutes. I didn't realize you guys discussed this on April 15th, I believe, Erica. And Erica was kind enough to send me the minutes, or else I would have been there to discuss it with you all. It sounds like you think we need to move the fire hydrant, but I will say that I researched with the water department and the fire department prior to suggesting that this owner even apply for any approvals in any way. And I was under the understanding that the fire hydrant is more than 10 feet away from the edge of the parking area and does not need to be relocated. But Erica may have new information that I'm unaware of.
I don't have new information. We were looking at the street view on Town GIS, so that could have been old information. I did want to know one thing. they may have an HTC approved plan, but they do not have an approved curb cut. Traffic safety reviewed this and recommended it, but the ultimate decision lies with the select board. So until or unless you make a decision, there is no approved curb cut.
And that's not on our agenda tonight, so.
Yeah.
Correct.
It seems the answer to your question, Victoria, is you're caught in the moment where we're considering an amendment of policy. So I apologize for that. But this is sort of an inflection point where we really need to, I feel like we need to think about this. We've been talking about it, if you look at the minutes, since December. And but I think for the moment, I like, Dawn's idea, which is where I was heading, is sort of reflecting that we're going to add a little more subjectivity to the analysis, that it's not a layup, it's not a guarantee, and that we're really going to be scrutinizing each situation and assessing the impact on the neighborhood. And then any change on parking permits would be a change in that. I would want to have a public hearing and all of that on that. But this is at our discretion, right? So our policy is not written in bylaw. It's just a policy or at select board discretion. So.
Yeah, I think it's somewhat giving some more direction to traffic safety and to the applicants, just in terms of expectations.
Yeah.
That it's not.
This to me points out why we need a parking commission. We don't have time to work this out. Traffic safety is working on requests. We don't have time. And the parking commission doesn't have to be 5 different people. It can be set up in the town government. It can be, a person from this board and 3 people from the from the town or whatever. But I think that there's free parking isn't free. It comes at a cost to all of us. When cars are parked on sidewalks, when you can't get a spot downtown, when people park all day, those things are all, we pay for it in other ways. And I think that this is, there are some things we need to do. I think what you're suggesting with the parking is one thing. There's plenty of places that say, how many people are in this neighborhood? Okay, we have so many stickers for those people. And there's no more. And there's all different ways of doing it. You have to value the parking. And I think that we haven't, when something's free, there's no value to it. People just, and there's a lot of abuses. There's a lot of situations. Don and I might have been on it, but there was Orange Street. Someone put in parking and they took a tree down. So the tree people said, you can't do that. And so they put the tree back in. And then when no one's looking a few years later, the tree's gone again, because they need to get their 2 cars there so they can, so they can live there or they can rent it. There's people who have parking lots, but parking lots or parking, but they want to make sure that their friends can park or their neighbors or someone else can come park all day. So they go on the street all day. So there's a lot of things like that that are happening that, that a parking commission and looking at the value of spaces and putting a price on it in the places that's necessary would be hugely helpful. And I think it's what Drew's talking about, sort of a disincentive. I think it would encourage people to do the right thing. And so anyway, I just think some of our worst streets, Liberty Street is a perfect example of a street that I know, Catherine Stover, they weren't able to leave their car from the front of their house, because if they did, they couldn't get back in until like 1 or 2 in the morning. Because you're playing musical chairs when you move. So you've got a parking permit, but as soon as you move, you don't get to park near your house anymore. You have to park miles away. And I think we need to look at this from I always think it's a math equation. How many spaces, how many cars, how do you get them to turn over? You start to tweak the buttons on the math equation to make it work for the community. And right now, I don't think it is. The problems are getting further and further from town. Cars park up on Lincoln Circle. They're parking up up by the, all the way up, like, not to the animal hospital, but they're parking pretty far now. And some of it is Turo cars. Turo cars are parking in Brant Point all day long. And one leaves and another one comes in if you talk to people there. And those are, because those places don't have parking restrictions. There's no enforcement there, so people can pull over and leave them there. So I think that the bigger issue is how do we put a parking commit? We voted it once and then COVID came and we've kind of held off. A previous board voted it. I think we need to, you know, get back to looking at this as a, for the benefit of the community. And this is a one small piece of what I think we need to do.
Well, I mean, another thing that I think we do need to consider in these situations is what came up earlier about landscapers with trailers. Like, no, it's just things have changed. It's kind of rare that someone has a lawnmower in their back shed, and there needs to be space on the street for things to legally pull over and park, to be able to provide services. And I mean, I think that Drew has a point where if it's like a little dead end street, it's a lot different than if it's a main road.
Yeah, well, I think there's a reality that we can't change the size of our streets, and so the cars that people service homes with, the cars that people drive into those areas, they have to fit the street. It's not the other way around. They have to fit the parking areas. And I think that conversation that we won't solve that tonight, but that has to be, we kind of put blinders on and don't want to talk about it. But the reality is there's a way to set widths. You can say you can park here if you can fit. Well, if you park, it's illegal in most places to park on sidewalks. When we put in place parking rules about 20, 25 years ago, and there were 3 roads, I'm going to get them wrong, but there were 3 streets when they measured them that were 12 feet, I think was the measurement. There were 3 streets that cars had to bump 1 tire up onto the curb, and we allowed that. And then everywhere else, you weren't allowed to park on the sidewalk, period. And that was the policy. But that has slowly changed. And when I brought that to the attention of the previous chief, he said, well, that's too complicated. Our guys can't do that. We just have to allow it everywhere. And so we have slowly allowed it to happen. I've thought that at some point, disability is going to sue us. Someone's going to come and sue the town for allowing this, and we're going to have to fix it whether we want to or not. So I think we should fix it on our own. I think we should figure out what's the way to get our sidewalks back. What's the way to, sort of do this? And so that's my take on it. And Don, you could find places to have pull-offs for trucks. We could do that, like for landscapers, but maybe the landscapers wouldn't buy as wide a truck. Maybe they'd buy thinner trucks. Maybe they would actually put them in the back of smaller trucks so they could park them on the client's property. Like, it's interesting, the client, like, I walk around Lincoln Circle a lot, and most of the time they don't pull onto the property, they pull onto the neighbor's property and they ruin the lawn. So they're coming to work on one house and they're parking on someone else's. So then when the person across the street has them come, they park on the other person's and ruin the other person's. And so it's kind of and there's ways that you can do it. There are places that work, like people have put Belgian block or put other things in, but it still looks good and someone can pull in and do it and the public can park on that. Like, there are certain things that we should actually look at those neighborhoods and allow to accommodate this, as opposed to saying you can't, you can park here and turn it into a mud bath. And so, like, I think it's almost a neighborhood by neighborhood. We have to have someone working on it and do it almost neighborhood by neighborhood of what will work. And we're not doing that. So
We're not going to solve this at 9 o'clock tonight.
no, we aren't. But anyway,
I'm wondering whether the rest of the board sort of concurs with the way Don and I were describing our changing how we look at these curb cuts and the double parking in exchange. And you're saying make it more subjective, and I'm saying, like, really make sure that folks don't expect that it's automatic when they put in the application. Because when I hear I've got HDC permission, I can do it, well, actually not so much, because it is at our discretion.
Well,
So-
and I don't want to waste people's time because it costs money and
Yep.
design and so forth to go through HDC. So,
Well, and I just want to make sure none of them, it's one thing to take a spot for your driveway. It's another thing to come back later and want another spot because you can't get in and out. And I think I'm kind of done with those. If you're putting in a driveway and you don't have turning radius, in the end, that's on you because you designed it wrong.
well, and that can depend on the size of the vehicle you're trying to get in and out too.
Right.
I was going to make that point. You got it in front of me because
But
what used to
ahead
be
of
it
you
would
now.
fit and
But-
now it doesn't
But
anymore.
my point is, if you're driving a Mini and it works, don't go buy a Suburban.
Yeah,
Right?
but then your
And don't ask
your
us to
neighbors
fix
across the street buy a Suburban and then you can't get out anyway.
Right.
And they park it on the sidewalk into the street and we let them. So that's, Dawn's right.
I do think it's a fair idea that if we're giving people a new driveway, that they
Lose
give
the
up
street.
something. Either they don't have the right, or it like immediately bumps up to a higher price to get an on-street parking
Money
permit.
won't change anything.
Yeah, Madam Chair, the price won't change.
Yeah, the demand is so strong.
Yeah.
Well, wait, next week we have a waiver request on that fee, so stay tuned. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that may be one of the better directions that we could go in and allow it more for people who really don't have room for a driveway.
Just on the price part of it, 20 years ago, when Hatches, they still had the mobile station or Hatches, whatever it was that was downtown. And they weren't doing that anymore. They rented for cars, and we were enforcing pretty strictly for 2 or 3 summers way back when Finn was on the board. And what we found was that people were getting a space and they were paying $10,000-$12,000 a summer, which in today's dollars are probably like 25 or 30,000. So they were paying 10,000 to have a parking space so they could have access to their car and do what they had to do, because we were enforcing really strictly enforcing the car limit, car hours and things. And so that tells you what the value of a parking space is. And we're giving it away for free. And so I think that's the mindset that we have to change. So that's, anyway.
Well, that's a bigger challenge. So are we sort of like directing traffic safety? Or where in the process does it get communicated that we're changing our approach to this? I think, and maybe we can just work with staff on that.
Yeah, why don't we stay tuned on this?
Okay.
Victoria Ewing, you still have your hand up. Did you have a brief comment? We're not reviewing that particular application tonight.
Yes, I understand. If I could, thank you,
Yeah.
Dawn. Through you, Madam Chair, I completely agree with everything, absolutely everything that has been discussed tonight. I'm a 33-year resident and I'm not as tenure as many of you, but I do understand where we were when I got here and where we're at now. I don't know why. Maybe I expedite every single board, so I don't know why there wasn't a driveway when this lot was subdivided. Maybe that would have resolved a little bit of this position right now. I also was unaware, and maybe Erica could correct me on this, that we wouldn't go from when I was advising the client to apply for these approvals in the first place and discussing it with the neighbor, as Matt suggested, off of the 15 Westchester paved hill in front of the tree. I didn't understand that we would not be going to road and right of way committee. Excuse me, as I understand that situation somewhat transferred recently, or more recently since the last time that I applied for a driveway
Roads and right of way doesn't review any parking stuff like this.
But in the past they did, or no?
It's
No, they didn't. It's traffic safety.
Traffic safety, sorry. Okay, so I thought that there would be like another meeting that before we got to you, we'd have to do, and that may have adjusted since the last time I was approaching a similar situation. So anyway, again, I completely agree with everything you guys are saying. My client is more than willing to give up, an on-site, if we get there, an on-site, or sorry, on-street parking permit. We're willing to do whatever it takes. As we discussed, we're kind of in the middle of this discussion and process. And I'm just looking to find the best possible solution. And again, it was subdivided off a lot. It looks like without a driveway.
I used to work for somebody who did work on that house, and they got parking in the rear. So
They did,
that's,
but that's part of the original lot, not the new subdivided lot.
I
That stayed
agree.
with the
But
original
my
lot.
point was that house used to get its parking from behind number 11.
I understand. It just was subdivided without that.
Well, I mean, again, we're just not reviewing that tonight, so let's have Erica be in touch with you when we put it back on the agenda.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Thanks. Drew?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be quick. I know it's late and we're trying to get out of here. This situation on Westchester reminded me of a situation that was discussed at length on, I think it was like 126 Main Street, subdivisions, and then the single driveway now is turning into two driveways. So to your point, Brooke, like where does the process start? I think the planning board, I mean, obviously this is an issue that's going to take, I think, everybody to have a part in resolving, but maybe it does start at the planning board with kind of the caveat that the subdivision may be approved, but plant the seed right then that you might want to give some thought to the single curb cut and a shared driveway situation, to Matt's point of coming off the original driveway for the secondary lot type of thing, to try to get ahead of it as soon as possible. So just put that out
Yeah,
there.
if they had multiple parking spaces, they could have given an easement to have parking.
Right. It just sounded to me like this is the subdivisions of lots is a lot of times where we're having issues with these additional curb cuts.
It's the suburbanization of our urban downtown environment. Turning every home, expecting every home to have a driveway for two cars downtown when they were built and it didn't exist. I understand why the HGC approves it. It's kind of what we've done. But I think if the NHC got a hold of this, I think they would start to say, don't do any of them because of what it's done to our built environment downtown, to the yards and to the hedges and to the, nice streetscape that we all used to walk and enjoy is gone. And I think that's, so it is a bigger issue.
The HDC may start to review it slightly differently if they realize that we're looking more closely at the entire landscape of it.
This might be worthy of a workshop.
There you go.
How's that?
All right, well, so we'll stay tuned on this one and figure it out at the agenda meeting. Now we need to appoint an interim select board representative to the Board of Health because they have a meeting next week. And Tom will no longer be on the board when the meeting takes place. And we generally haven't worked out our appointments until a couple weeks after the new members come in.
Who wants to catch the hot potato?
I thought maybe you wanted to do it.
I'll do it.
I'm willing, but it's up to you guys.
You're willing? I'll do it. I'll do it.
I'm willing if you vote, if you want to vote for me, I'll do it. It's one meeting.
Um,
Oh, now everybody can fight over it.
Matt, you're welcome to do it. I nominate Matt to be our Board of Health rep for
I'll
the
go
next
get my
meeting.
head chopped off.
Okay. Oh, do we need to take a vote or can we just do that by unanimous
We
consent?
usually do that by consensus. Yeah. Matt, you're on.
What?
All right.
You want us to vote? Okay.
all right.
Well, then all those in favor by roll call. Matt Fee,
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb, Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Tom Dixon.
Aye.
You're glad to give it up.
He's like,
Dunhill,
yeah.
aye. That carries unanimously 5-0. And Malcolm, can you give us your final update on the investigation of the African Meeting House vandalism?
Yes, I did report a little bit about what the investigators said about our parking situation. And this is a gentleman who's makes his living by making assessments of government actions. And he did comment that we did perhaps some ADA violations around town. Came right out of his mouth.
You think?
So in any event, he was on island this morning. Part of the original RFP said that there would be a security assessment done of the buildings there. And he went through it today with a representative from the organization. And that will be part of his report or maybe a separate report about the security activities. What everyone wants to know, of course, is the report. Well, the report, he has drafted a report. It is presently going under peer review by a former FBI supervisor because he wants to make sure it's okay. Has some piece of information he doesn't have, and that's from the state police. He has some of the state police information that he got from the district attorney's office because the state police reports were in district attorney's reports. He says some concern that he says sometimes when he's done this, he thinks he has everything in a row, and one little piece of information will change everything. So he's a little hesitant at this point to let go of it. And I wished I was be here when it's released, but it's certainly close. And I think, well, at some point he may come back when the report is finished and he can talk to him and ask him questions about it. So it will be after I'm gone. But I will be in the audience when it's presented.
Going to suggest that would be a great idea.
I want to say thank you, Malcolm, for taking this on our behalf. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And last up, we have committee reports.
I'm going to have a related thing. It's not a committee report. I should have done it during select board comments, but we tend to mix these things up. I attended the third session of community conversations hosted at the African Meeting House site on Saturday. And I was really sorry I missed the first two. I don't know how I did, but this third one was much better publicized. There were a group of about 13 people in the room. And really, it was a facilitated series of conversations around the vandalism of the African Meeting House and the impact on the community. And I want to express my gratitude to the Museum of African American History for funding and supporting these conversations. It was meaningful. It was well facilitated. And I heard a lot of interesting perspectives from folks in the community. I think that there is a lack of understanding about what has transpired and what results are known in terms of the person found that responsible for perpetrating this crime. And I find it interesting that folks aren't aware that in 2022 there was a civil judgment against an individual. And that people just don't even know that happened. So it was really interesting. It was a great conversation. And again, just reiterate my gratitude. I had talked to Dr. Oh my gosh, name's gonna, Trent, Dr. Trent. Probably 18 months ago. And one of the things when we were in this process of procurement, and one of the things we talked about was that the communities never really had an opportunity to talk about what happened and the impact beyond the criminal side of it. And I hope it's not the end of the conversation around the incident, the impact and racism in our community that does exist, and how we can have more open and honest conversations about that. And because people are hurt not just by that incident, but every day. And I want to continue that conversation, and I hope we'll all work together. We really worked on some action items and how to, facilitate ongoing conversations in the community. I'm looking forward to that.
Anybody else?
Move to adjourn?
All those in favor by roll call, Matt Fee.
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb.
Aye.
Brooke Moore.
Aye.
Tom Dixon.
Aye.
Don Hill, aye. That carries unanimously. And thank you, everyone.